Chapter 57-54. Lan Xiaoru looked at the small image on the huge display screen, and her hands jumped quickly on the control keyboard. In addition to the normal video surveillance, there were also high-tech surveillance methods such as thermal imaging, infrared imaging, and so on. They could see every corner of the entire villa clearly. It was a pity that Lin Yi was a spirit body, and these surveillance methods could not find his exact location, so they could not be sure if Lin Yi was really in the villa. Because of this, Lan Xiaoru did not dare to act rashly for a while, for fear that she could not hit the target and give Lin Yi a chance to catch his breath. She did not know that if she attacked now, Lin Yi might really be killed by her, and the hesitation at this critical moment really gave Lin Yi a chance to live. In the villa, Han Jingjing was still waiting by Lin Yi's side, paying attention to the changes on the instrument at all times. What made her feel at ease was that looking at the fluctuations of those lines, Lin Yi's condition was gradually improving. First of all, the speed of energy loss began to slow down after these days of strong replenishment, and the speed of replenishment had further increased. If her guess was right and it went smoothly, Lin Yi would be able to wake up soon, and Han Jingjing's purpose of coming back would basically be considered to have been achieved. At this moment, Han Jingjing found that the technological surveillance array she had set up had captured some strange energy signals, and she immediately operated quickly on the notebook. What is this? Surveillance equipment? In less than 10 seconds, Han Jingjing easily found the source of the trace of energy signal. It turned out to be a thermal imaging instrument not far from the villa. Originally, someone had set up surveillance equipment around the villa, and it should have been discovered by the people in the villa early on. However, these guys used the identity of repairing the network base station as a cover, and they did not arouse the suspicion of Kong Xiaobo and the others. They openly installed all kinds of surveillance equipment around the villa. When it came to combat experience, all the people in this villa added up would not be comparable to Lin Yi. Han Jingjing was also a little speechless. If it were not for this surveillance tool discovering a trace of abnormal energy, she would not have paid attention to what the people outside were doing. I'd like to see who is so concerned about my big brother Lin Yi. Han Jingjing snorted and immediately began to reverse track on the notebook, trying to find out where the signal was flowing to. Han Jingjing's genius was not only manifested in research and manufacturing various inventions. In fact, she used to be one of the top 5 hackers in the world, and her technical strength was not inferior to the unconscious Tu Ranran. It was just that no one knew her identity, and she only appeared occasionally for fun, so she was not known. Although she had not been in the secular world for a few years, Han Jingjing's skills had not fallen behind. Instead, they had become even more powerful. It was likely that she had set up her own security defenses and cracked the invasions on Heaven Island. For Han Jingjing, this was just a little game for her to relax when she was tired. I caught you. In less than 3 to 5 minutes, Han Jingjing chuckled proudly. This was much simpler than the security protection she set up herself. Lan Xiaoru did not expect that the surveillance equipment would be tracked by Han Jingjing. In fact, Lan Xiaoru's technical strength was not inferior to Han Jingjing's, but Lan Xiaoru never considered that the people in the villa would discover and track her, so she did not set up too complicated defenses. The few firewalls were set up by Lan Xiaoru out of habit. It was enough for ordinary hackers, but for Han Jingjing, it was completely useless. This time, not only did she find the source of the signal, but Han Jingjing also silently followed the video signal and invaded the center system. It was rare for them to open a receiving port. If Han Jingjing did not make good use of it, it would be a waste of their hospitality. Center. I knew it. Let's see where you can run now. The screen in front of Han Jingjing was densely packed with confidential information from the center's central computer. Even Han Jingjing's beautiful big eyes showed a fanatical look. The hard disk space is not enough. Damn it. Han Jingjing muttered and quickly pulled another computer on the side. After connecting it quickly, she continued to copy the center's database. Taking advantage of this time, she also observed Lin Yi's situation. It was still developing in a good direction, so Han Jingjing continued to control the center's central computer. With the highest control authority, Han Jingjing could copy the center's confidential information without any scruples. Originally, she wanted to delete all the information after copying, but doing so was likely to be discovered by the people in the center, so Han Jingjing maintained extreme caution. She only copied it and did not act rashly. Suddenly, the name of a project caught Han Jingjing's attention, Spirit Incinerator. This name was obviously targeted at Brother Lin Yi. How could Han Jingjing let it go? She immediately secretly looked at this file first. To her surprise, the research project was still in progress, and the information was constantly being updated. To put it simply, Han Jingjing was on a live broadcast. Spirit Incinerator was based on the super flame researched by the glasses doctor in the Center's Sacred. It was a simplified device that made it easier to carry around, but the power of the flame in a unit wouldn't be reduced at all. The glasses doctor's memory had been passed on to Xiaolong, so this project was now under Xiaolong's management. Lan Xiaoru also helped solve some of the problems, which made the research progress quite fast. Han Jingjing was secretly shocked as she watched. Sure enough, she wasn't the only genius in this world. The guy who developed the primordial spirit incinerator was an extremely intelligent existence. Han Jingjing felt that he wasn't much inferior to her. Of course, now wasn't the time to be amazed by the opponent's strength. Seeing that the spirit incinerator was about to be completed, Han Jingjing felt that she should do something, but she didn't know what to do yet. It wasn't that Han Jingjing didn't have a plan, but there was more than one action she could take, and she didn't know which one was the best. Brother Lin Yi, you're really lucky. Luckily, it was Jing Jing who came. If the other sisters came, they wouldn't be able to discover the central plot. Knowing that Lin Yi's condition was improving, Han Jingjing's mood improved as well. She couldn't help but praise Lin Yi. Chapter 57-55. As she spoke, Han Jingjing got busy again. She gathered the scattered parts and started making something. In the second base, Xiaolong and Lan Xiaoru finally completed the simplified version of the super flame, the spirit burner. Now was the time to use it to kill Lin Yi. Shui Jianfeng, install this spirit burner on the flying saucer and go to the villa to kill Lin Yi. Xiaolong said to Shui Jianfeng proudly as he pointed at the spirit burner he had just made. Shui Jianfeng turned to Lan Xiaoru and asked, Miss Lan, have you confirmed that Lin Yi is in the villa? Also, is this thing really effective? If something goes wrong, should I just kill Lin Yi and be done with it? Lan Xiaoru looked at Shui Jianfeng with approval. Not bad. Your question is very good. Our first goal is to kill Lin Yi no matter what. If the spirit burner doesn't work, then we'll have to rely on you to kill Lin Yi's spirit. Remember, don't fail. After a slight pause, Lan Xiaoru continued, as for whether or not Lin Yi is in the villa, I'm not sure yet, but I'm guessing that there's a 90% chance that he is. Just do whatever you want. Shui Jianfeng nodded. I understand. I'll go prepare now. Xiaolong wasn't happy that Shui Jianfeng ignored him. He humphed, forget it. I'll go with you. I'm the one who made this spirit burner, after all. If anything goes wrong, I'll be able to take care of it. That's good. I'll be more at ease with Professor Kong. Lan Xiaoru nodded. She didn't object to Xiaolong's suggestion. Shui Jianfeng was annoyed. She didn't even trust him for something like this? This Xiaolong was too much. Did he think that just because he inherited Professor Glass's memories, he really became Professor Glasses? However, Shui Jianfeng also knew that he was the one who had the least right to speak, so he didn't say much. He picked up the small cannon-shaped spirit incinerator and turned to leave the room. Xiaolong called out to Lan Xiaoru and Zhang Wen before following them out. He didn't pay much attention to Shui Jianfeng's feelings. He only wanted to go along because of his hatred for Lin Yi. There weren't many chances to kill Lin Yi with his own hands, so Xiaolong wouldn't miss it. The sky was already dark by the time everything was ready. The flying saucer carried Shui Jianfeng and Xiaolong, activating the cloaking device and leaving Songshan's outskirts, flying towards Lin Yi's villa. It wasn't even a minute before it reached Lin Yi's villa. It was a city area, after all, and the speed of the flying saucer was incredibly fast. Shui Jianfeng's divine sense swept over first. This distance wasn't a problem at all. As long as there wasn't any divine sense shielding device, he could see everything in the villa clearly. It was much better than the surveillance devices outside. Lin Yi really is heavily injured. He's lying unconscious in the room on the second floor, Shui Jianfeng said, pleasantly surprised. If he knew it would be so easy, why would he need those surveillance devices? He could have just asked him to take a look around here. However, Shui Jianfeng's divine sense was noticed by Languza. Languza was much stronger than Xue Jianfeng, and so was his divine sense. Xue Jianfeng's scan was immediately noticed by Languza, and he followed up with a scan. Xue Jianfeng's body shook, and he mumbled, "I forgot about this guy. Even if Lin Yi's injuries aren't light, this guy isn't easy to deal with." Xiaolong, on the other hand, didn't notice Xue Jianfeng's mumbling. When he heard that Lin Yi was on the second floor of the villa, he laughed evilly. "Ha ha ha, the heavens are on my side. That bastard Lin Yi finally has his day. Watch how this young master's primordial spirit incinerator turns him into ashes." Xue Jianfeng wanted to say that there was a mystic late-stage master who had his eyes on them, but when he thought that Lin Yi was about to die, he didn't say it out loud. More importantly, Xue Jianfeng thought that even if he couldn't win against Languza, it wouldn't be a problem. After merging with the new recovery potion, his body was almost immortal. Languza was strong, but he might not be able to do anything to Xue Jianfeng. If he could use this chance to kill Xiaolong, it would be perfect. Firing the spirit incinerator not only gave him a chance to kill Lin Yi, but it also gave him a chance to kill Xiaolong. This was killing two birds with one stone. Xue Jianfeng wanted to laugh out loud at the thought of it. He should give himself a thumbs up for being so smart. These thoughts flashed through his mind in an instant. Xiaolong didn't know that Xue Jianfeng was planning to get rid of him with a borrowed knife. He was still laughing proudly as he activated the soul burner, aiming for the villa below. A blazing white super flame suddenly descended from the sky. It was as if a small sun had lit up in the night sky, illuminating the entire villa area. "Die, die, die, all of you." Xiaolong laughed crazily as he pushed the burner's power to the maximum. The white super flame brought with it waves of heat, engulfing the entire villa. Jiangwen, who was far away in the second base, changed his expression. "What's wrong with Xiaolong? Didn't we agree to only kill Lin Yi's soul? Does he intend to kill everyone in this villa with this level of intensity?" The super flame did damage to the soul without a doubt. It was obvious from Lin Yi's current situation, but in fact, the super flame didn't only work on the soul. It would burn everything else as well. Judging from the range of the super flames that Xiaolong had unleashed, the entire villa would be completely destroyed in 1 or 2 seconds. Everyone inside, including Languza, would probably be burned to ashes. Jiangwen didn't care about the others, but Ming Yao was in deep slumber as well. This bastard Xiaolong was going to kill Yao Yao as well. But the super flame of the spirit burner had already been unleashed. Even Jiangwen couldn't stop it now. Killing Lin Yi was something to be happy about, but letting Yao Yao die with him was something he couldn't accept. Chapter 57-56. Just when these people in the center thought that the outcome had been decided, an inconspicuous metal rod that looked like a lightning rod suddenly flashed with a few electric arcs. Then, the blazing white flames that covered the sky seemed to be attracted by the lightning rod. They suddenly changed their direction and gathered on the metal rod. Xiaolong's smile was still on his face when he realized that things weren't as he'd imagined. The villa below was still the same villa, and the super flames from the spirit burner didn't even burn a single feather on the roof, much less Lin Yi inside. "What's going on?" Xiaolong asked, surprised, but no one answered his question. Could it be that it's malfunctioning? That doesn't make sense. Xiaolong subconsciously activated the spirit burner again, and another ball of super flame fell straight down. This time, Xiaolong's eyes were wide open, and he could clearly see the super flame being absorbed by the metal rod. How could this be? Xiaolong was dumbfounded. Strictly speaking, this spirit burner was created by combining his and the glass's professor's intelligence. How could it be useless? Normally speaking, a ball of super flame would be enough to burn the villa below into ashes. Why couldn't it burn a single metal rod after 2 tries? In the villa, Han Jingjing, who'd always had a cute expression on her face, was smiling like a fox. She was just worried about the lack of free soul energy in Songshan, and Lin Yi's recovery speed was too slow, and this idiot Xiaolong came to her rescue twice in a row. If they hadn't been discovered by the surveillance earlier, they would have been able to kill Lin Yi, but it was unnecessary. Han Jingjing caught them, tracked them back to their location, and took control of the second base's central computer. Xiaolong's spirit burner was no longer a secret to Han Jingjing. After all, She was a super genius who'd invented automatic pill refining and weaponsmithing equipment. The principle behind the spirit burner was laid out clearly in front of her, and if she still couldn't find a way to deal with it, she might as well kill herself with a piece of tofu. The super flame could damage the body, and in other words, it was a type of energy utilization. Han Jingjing created a reverse recycling device for the spirit burner, reversing the damage of the super flame. Xiaolong's 2 consecutive attacks were converted into energy for Lin Yi's body to absorb. It wasn't as effective as pure soul energy, but there was a lot of it, and it should be able to speed up Lin Yi's recovery. Why did you stop? Let's do it a few more times. This little bit of energy isn't enough to wake up Lin Yi, big bro. Xiaolong, go. Don't give up. Go. Han Jingjing stared at the computer screen with a smile, cheering for Xiaolong and the UFO. If she only used the super flame twice, it wouldn't even be enough for her hard work. Another ball of white super flame appeared on the screen, and Han Jingjing couldn't help but exclaim. At least Xiaolong wasn't so scared, or else she'd consider making a simplified spirit burner herself to replenish Lin Yi's energy. In the UFO, Xiaolong screamed hysterically, "Impossible! There's nothing wrong with my work. How could this happen? This doesn't make sense." Amidst Han Jingjing's laughter, she fired the super flame again and again, adding to Lin Yi's recovery. Shui Jianfeng's face was a little ugly. He wanted to use Languza to get rid of Xiaolong, but it had been so long, and even the security of the residential area was gathering here. There was no response from the villa at all. Something was wrong, and while he wasn't afraid, he still felt a little guilty. Xiaolong, don't use your spirit burner anymore. Use the laser cannon to blow up this villa first, and if Lin Yi doesn't die, then use the burner on him. Shui Jianfeng couldn't help but remind Xiaolong, who was already in a dead end. After all, compared to Xiaolong, he wanted to kill Lin Yi more. Xiaolong paused, not minding the disrespect in Shui Jianfeng's tone. He clapped his hands. Makes sense. Shui Jianfeng, you're quite smart, aren't you? Your limbs aren't the only thing you have. Shui Jianfeng wanted to slap this guy to death. If he'd known this guy was like this, he would have thrown him into the sea to feed the fishes when he escaped from the holy cinder. Xiaolong's back was facing Shui Jianfeng, so he didn't see him grit his teeth. His hands were still moving quickly on the control panel, and under the UFO, the spirit burner's barrel retracted, revealing the laser cannon's barrel. Lan Xiaoru and Zhang Wen were shocked that the super flame didn't work at all, but Xiaolong was getting ready to use the laser cannon. Zhang Wen, who was in the base, finally came back to his senses and yelled into the communicator, "Xiaolong, don't destroy the villa. Lin Yi isn't alone in there. Let Shui Jianfeng go destroy the absorption device." Unfortunately, his words didn't stop Xiaolong. As far as Xiaolong was concerned, anyone who was with Lin Yi should be dead, so he pretended he didn't hear Zhang Wen's call. The muzzle of the laser cannon quickly charged up, and then a white light flashed, and a beam of light fell directly on the villa. The security guards who ran over from afar were all stunned, as if they were watching a sci-fi blockbuster. Because of the laser cannon, the UFO's invisibility had failed. So these people were all thinking, could it be that aliens were invading Earth? Xiaolong's lips curled into a smile. He could already imagine the villa being reduced to rubble, and then the laser cannon would be replaced with the spirit burner, turning everything into ashes with a super flame. But the next moment, Xiaolong was completely dumbfounded. There was a flash of light above the villa, and a U-shaped light shield appeared. After the laser beam entered the shield, it turned around and shot back at the flying saucer. What the hell? Xiaolong was scared out of his wits. The UFO had a protective shield, but Xiaolong didn't even think about getting hit by his laser cannon, so he didn't activate it. Even if he thought about it, he wouldn't be able to activate it in time. Chapter 57:57. Alert! Alert! The UFO is under attack. Heavily damaged. Explode in 30 seconds. The UFO's electronic voice sounded intermittently. Judging from the sparks on the hole, it was obvious that the UFO wouldn't be able to hold on much longer. Xiaolong was still in shock and didn't know how to react when he heard the alarm. Shui Jianfeng, on the other hand, was much more clear-headed. Since the UFO was about to explode, it was better for him to leave as soon as possible. The defenses of the villa were obviously prepared for a surprise attack. Since that was the case, Xue Jianfeng didn't want to take the risk. If it was Lin Yi's underlings who weren't prepared, Xue Jianfeng was confident that his sneak attack would work, but with the defenses of the villa so tight, even if he could recover quickly, he wouldn't dare provoke the enemy. Xue Jianfeng looked at Zhaolong, who was still in shock, and opened the door to the UFO's emergency compartment, preparing to escape by himself. As for that idiot Zhaolong, he'd just let him explode with the UFO. But before Xue Jianfeng could leave the UFO, Lan Shiru's voice came from the communicator. Xue Jianfeng, protect Professor Kong and get him out of the UFO. Get him back to the base as soon as possible. Remember, you must ensure Professor Kang's safety. Xue Jianfeng hated himself. He wanted to kill Zhaolong, but he had to force himself to save him. This feeling was more disgusting than swallowing a fly. Understood. Don't worry, Miss Lan. I'll bring Professor Kong back for sure. Xue Jianfeng gritted his teeth and reluctantly pulled Zhaolong over, jumping out of the emergency hatch. In order to attack the villa, the flying saucer was hovering 100 meters in the air. Xue Jianfeng wouldn't have any problems jumping down from that distance, but Zhaolong would be dead without Xue Jianfeng's help. There was a parachute in the UFO, but there wasn't enough time to open it at 100 meters in the air. That was why Xue Jianfeng was so unwilling. Xue Jianfeng, who jumped out of the hatch, did not land directly. Instead, he used the momentum to glide diagonally. If he landed directly, he would be in the villa where Lin Yi was. Lin Yi had not woken up, but if he was stopped by Languza, Xue Jianfeng would not be able to get any benefits. It was better to stay away from them. After gliding in the air for more than 100 meters, the UFO suspended in the air burst into brilliant sparks and directly disintegrated in the air. However, this explosion was not a self-detonation. Instead, it exploded because it was hit by the laser cannon, so the power was not that great. A few larger parts of the UFO fell with a flaming tail. Languza's consciousness had been locked onto Xue Jianfeng and Zhaolong the entire time. The moment the two left the flying saucer, he wanted to chase after them. Languza had always wanted to kill Xue Jianfeng, who had the scent of a sea beast on him. Unfortunately, Lin Yi didn't agree. This time, Lin Yi was still unconscious, so there was no one to stop him. Languza, of course, didn't want to let Xue Jianfeng go. Languza, where do you think you're going? It was a pity that Languza was stopped by Sun Jingyi just as he stood up. Sister-in-law, I found an ambush. I'm going to capture them. Languza scratched his head. He had a lot of respect for Sun Jingyi. After all, she was his boss, Lin Yi's woman. For Lin Yi's sake, he had to explain. Sun Jingyi shook her head. Languza, I want to ask you not to leave the villa. We can't be sure of Lin Yi's condition right now. You're the only one here who can protect him. If you fall into the trap and Lin Yi is in danger, we might not be able to protect Lin Yi with our strength. Languza thought about it. Compared to killing the annoying Xue Jianfeng, Lin Yi's safety was obviously more important. So, Languza nodded immediately. Sister-in-law, you're right. I was too impulsive. I won't go anywhere today. I'll stay in the villa and see who dares to attack boss. Thank you, Languza. Sun Jingyi smiled. Being able to let Languza stay here had calmed her down a lot. She couldn't help with Lin Yi's injury at all, but before Lin Yi woke up, she had to do everything she could to protect Lin Yi's safety. There were a few sounds of heavy objects falling to the ground. It was obvious that it was the flying saucer that exploded in the sky. Han Jingjing shouted from upstairs. Sister Jingyi, get someone to bring the flying saucer's pieces in. I need to study them. Then, I'll notify the secret investigation department and have them settle this. Don't let anyone know. Okay, I'll arrange it. Sun Jingyi agreed. She asked Yu Bing and the others to help move the flying saucer pieces in. The flames on the metal pieces had already disappeared when they hit the ground. Although it was a bit hot, Yu Bing and the others weren't afraid of the heat. They quickly moved the pieces in. As for the security guards that came later, they were sent away by Kong Xiaobo with a random excuse. It couldn't be helped. Kong Xiaobo was a famous figure in Songshan. Even if he was lying, the security guards would believe him. Han Jingjing checked on Lin Yi's condition again. After absorbing the energy from the super flame, Lin Yi seemed to be getting a lot better. Han Jingjing didn't stay here and ran downstairs. As for the flying saucer technology, Han Jingjing had already gotten it from the central mainframe of the base. Now, she only needed to look at the wreckage of the flying saucer to confirm the materials used and the arrangement of the circuits. Then, she would be able to calculate what kind of resources she needed to build a flying saucer. Although she couldn't bring the flying saucer back to Sky-class Island, it was still good to use it in the common world. Plus, after Han Jingjing returned to Sky-class Island, she could build another flying saucer. This thing was much more reliable than flying spirit beasts. It was also very fast. After Han Jingjing modified it, it would be even more perfect. Aya, there's only this much left. What a pity. Han Jingjing ran down and saw the black metal pieces. She had a regretful expression on her face. She didn't think about the person who caused this. After banging on it for a while, Han Jingjing nodded in satisfaction. Good, good. Although it's broken, I've gathered most of the things I wanted. Jingjing, sis-in-law, do you want to build a flying saucer for us too? Kong Xiaobo asked curiously. His eyes were full of expectation. It was a good thing to have a flying saucer to play with. I have this plan, but I'm not sure yet, Han Jingjing said with a smile. Although they had the technology, it wasn't easy to build a flying saucer. While everyone was talking, Lin Yi, who was upstairs, slowly opened his eyes. His consciousness had finally communicated with the Yuan Shan outside from the space of the jade pendant. It was only a matter of time before he woke up. Chapter 57-58. There is such a plan, but I'm not sure yet, Han Jingjing said with a smile. Although the technology was there, it was not so easy to build a flying saucer. Just as everyone was talking, Linny slowly opened his eyes upstairs. His consciousness finally communicated with the Yuan Shan outside from the space of the jade pendant. It was only a matter of time before he woke up. But what were these strange metal rods around him? An array? Who set it up? Linny remembered that he was injured and unconscious after the explosion in the central sacred region. Fortunately, Languza had already picked them up at that time, so the safety of others didn't seem to need him to worry. With a sweep of his divine sense, Lin Yi already knew that he was back in the villa in Songshan City. Those who were unconscious continued to sleep well, and the rest were in the living room below, huddled together to study something. Jingjing. Lin Yi was slightly stunned. For a moment, Lin Yi wondered if he had returned to the heavenly island. Otherwise, how could he see Han Jingjing? However, except for Han Jingjing, the rest were in the secular world, and this was indeed the villa in Songshan City. Then there was only one possibility. Han Jingjing also came to the secular world. After carefully sensing, Han Jingjing was indeed a Yuan Shan. This made Lin Yi very surprised. How long had he been unconscious? Could it be that it wasn't 10 days, but more than 10 months? Otherwise, how could Han Jingjing appear here as a Yuan Shan? Was she already a nascent soul master? Zhao Lao, how long did I stay in the space of the jade pendant? Lin Yi asked Zhao Yazi. With his strength, it was not easy to project his Yuan Shan and condense it into a Yuan Shan. With Han Jingjing's cultivation, how could it be easier than him? It's been more than 10 years. Elder Jiao said casually. Lin Yi decided to ignore this old guy. It must be because he didn't think of him much when he returned to the secular world. So now it was a blatant revenge. Since Han Jingjing was here, there was nothing strange about these metal pillars beside Lin Yi's bed. It must be something that Han Jingjing made. Perhaps the energy that he felt in the space of the jade pendant that did not belong to the space of the jade pendant was made by these things. If that was the case, did Han Jingjing come to save him? It was because of Han Jingjing's help that he could improve the speed of spiritual sense cultivation. Thinking about the speed of his spirit's training, Lin Yi was a little excited. The art of stealing fortune was indeed very effective in training his spirit. When he woke up, he found that his spirit's strength had reached the late stage of mystic ascension. At the same time, Lin Yi's body on the island also made a light crackling sound. The true qi in his body was surging. His bones and meridians seemed to be undergoing a slight reorganization. He actually broke through again. Tian Chan, who was guarding on the side, was overjoyed, but she didn't dare to make a sound, for fear of disturbing Lin Yi. She just pulled a rope on the side, and the bell connected to the bottom shook rapidly. After hearing it, Sydney also hurried up. When Sydney and Shanghai Laner rushed up, they just saw Lin Yi's body sit up by itself and return to the previous state of cultivation. Great. Jingjing succeeded. I knew she could do it. Shanghai Laner couldn't help but cheer. Lin Yi had returned to the state of cultivation. So Tian Chan was also relieved and didn't stop Shanghai Laner's cheers. Sydney was also excited. She hugged Tian Chan and said, "Great! Jingjing really succeeded, and she saved Lin Yi so quickly. She's really amazing." Tian Chan was so happy that her pretty face turned red. She nodded repeatedly and said, "Yes, yes." Fortunately, Jingjing went. Otherwise, I don't know how long it would take for Lin Yi to return to his original state. Thinking that she should inform the will of heaven and Okuda state about this matter, Tian Chan suppressed her excitement. She glanced at Lin Yi and hurried down to inform someone. Not to mention that the people on the island were as happy as if they were celebrating a festival. When Lin Yi found that Han Jingjing had also returned, he didn't have time to experience the feeling of the profound ascension late stage. He got up and went straight downstairs. "Jingjing, how did you come back?" As soon as he went downstairs, Lin Yi asked. The people who were looking around the UFO wreckage suddenly turned around in surprise. "Big brother Lin Yi, you're awake?" Han Jingjing was the first to react. She was also a Yuan Shun. Before Lin Yi spoke, she had already sensed something. So as soon as Lin Yi opened his mouth, she had already cheered and rushed over. On the contrary, Languza, a profound ascension late-stage expert, didn't realize that Lin Yi had come downstairs until he heard his voice. Needless to say, no one could find any trace of Lin Yi. Lin Yi smiled and hugged Han Jingjing, who rushed over like a swallow returning to its nest. He waved to everyone and then asked, "How did you come back?" "The Yuan Shan's condensation is very good." Han Jingjing remembered that there were still a lot of people on the side. She suddenly lowered her head shyly, but she was also reluctant to leave Lin Yi's embrace. She just whispered, "I researched a soft armor that can emit the aura of nascent soul. It deceived the Yuan Shen projection device, so I was able to return to the secular world. Moreover, this soft armor also came back with my Yuan Shen. My Yuan Shen body is also thanks to this soft armor." Lin Yi was greatly surprised. He never doubted that Han Jingjing was a genius, but he still underestimated the degree of Han Jingjing's genius. He was very clear that the Yuan Shen projection device couldn't bring any physical equipment, but Han Jingjing could still bring the soft armor she researched. This could only explain one problem, that is, Han Jingjing's soft armor could already be regarded as Yuan Shen equipment. For example, Lin Yi's divine bracelet. He was very sure that even if he didn't use the space of the jade pendant to carry it, he could still bring the divine bracelet back when he went back. "Lin Yi, this time, thanks to Jingjing coming over, you can wake up. Also, if it weren't for Jingjing, those people from the center would have probably killed us all." Sun Jingyi came up and said with a smile. She was asking for credit for Han Jingjing, but also reminding Lin Yi not to forget the threat from the center. Lin Yi's face turned cold. "The center again? Are they not dead yet? It seems that I really have to kill them all. Jingjing, do you have a video?" Lin Yi guessed that the center came to find trouble, so Han Jingjing would probably record the whole process. Sure enough, Han Jingjing immediately nodded and said, "Yes, big brother Lin Yi, do you want to see it now?" Chapter 57-59. "Wait a second, Lin Yi bro, I'll get the laptop and play it for you." Han Jingjing didn't wait for Lin Yi's reply and went upstairs. Everyone was watching, and she didn't want to be too intimate with them. Very quickly, Han Jingjing connected the video of the attack to the big TV in the living room. Everyone watched it, and when Lin Yi saw the white super flame, his face turned extremely ugly. This kind of flame was something that even he was afraid of. If Han Jingjing wasn't here to dispel it, everyone in the villa would have been turned into ashes. The people here were the most important to Lin Yi, and the Central's actions were simply urging Lin Yi to kill them as soon as possible. Lin Yi couldn't take it anymore. Since the Central was courting death like this, it seemed that he wouldn't be able to go back to Sky Class Island in peace if he didn't get rid of the Central's power in the common world. Shui Jianfeng brought Xiaolong back to the second base just as he was thinking about how to get rid of the central power. The operation this time was a complete failure, and they almost lost the new professor, who had just revived from his inherited memories. In the meeting room, Jiang Wen smiled coldly at Xiaolong. "Professor Kong, you're really something? Destroying a flying saucer so easily. You're really something." Xiaolong was a bit embarrassed, not knowing what to say. He understood that Jiang Wen was blaming him for not listening to orders. Ming Yao was in the villa, and Jiang Wen wouldn't allow him to hurt her. Xiaolong being able to inherit the glasses professor's memory was mostly due to Lan Xiaoru's guidance, but Jiang Wen had helped as well. If Jiang Wen had objected, Lan Xiaoru might have given him some face. After all, it was easy to find a scientist's body in the central. Plus, Jiang Wen was the commander of the central base, and Xiaolong acting on his own was already breaking the rules. Lan Xiaoru coughed lightly and tried to smooth things over. "This matter is a little strange. Let's put aside the other problems for now and study it together." As he spoke, the screen in the meeting room showed the scene of the flying saucer attacking the villa. First, the super flame fell, and then it was absorbed by the metal rod. The whole process was slowed down 10 times, and because it was shot from the side, it was even clearer than what Xiaolong could see from the flying saucer. After watching the video, Xiaolong's face was already very ugly. When the laser beam was reflected, his face was as black as the bottom of a pot. "Miss Lan, our attack is obviously targeted. This situation is too abnormal. I suspect that there is a traitor in the base," Xiaolong said coldly. The doctor was killed by the traitor, Dafeng Bro. The memory was still fresh, so Xiaolong immediately thought of the traitor. Lan Xiaoru nodded but didn't express any opinion. Instead, she turned to Jiang Wen and asked, "Commanderin, what do you think?" This second base was built single-handedly by Jiang Wen, and Lan Xiaoru didn't know much about it, so she asked for his opinion. Jiang Wen said solemnly, "It's not impossible. That bastard Linny likes to get people to be his spies. So I've been very careful in this area. If even this can let the traitor get our secrets, then this traitor must be very powerful." Lan Xiaoru smiled faintly. On the surface, Jiang Wen said it wasn't impossible, but between the lines, it was completely impossible. Lan Xiaoru didn't say much and looked at the stilled video again. It was the moment when the laser beam was reflected by the U-shaped shield. Whether or not there is a traitor, it's certain that they have a technological expert. Otherwise, even if we gave them the theory, they wouldn't be able to crack it and create a countermeasure in a short time. Lan Xiaoru's right index finger on the table lightly tapped on the metal surface as she analyzed calmly. Xiaolong heard it and slapped his thigh as if he had thought of something. "That's right. That must be it. I remember now. Linny does have a technological expert with him. I think she's called Han Jingjing." Back then, it was this little bitch who made some automatic pill refining equipment for Miracle Dr. Guan's medical company to sell. House Kang's business was ruined, and we almost went bankrupt. If Xiaoming didn't enter the Five Elements sect and go to Sky Island, House Kong would have been gone a long time ago. The technological expert in the villa must be this little bitch. Lan Xiaoru raised an eyebrow and tapped hard on the table. "Oh, I know this Han Jingjing, but she should be on Sky Island. It would be strange if she came back. Wait here. I'll contact the main body." "Yes, Miss Lan, please go ahead." The three didn't have any objections and sent Lan Xiaoru out of the meeting room. After Lan Xiaoru left, the three in the meeting room didn't like each other, and the atmosphere became awkward. Jiang Wen originally liked Xiaolong a lot, even taking him in as his follower. But after Xiaolong inherited the glasses professor's memories, his status wasn't any lower than Jiang Wen's. Plus, he wanted to kill Ming Yao as well, and even said that there was a spy in the second base. It would be strange if Jiang Wen still treated Xiaolong nicely. As for Shui Jianfeng, Jiang Wen didn't really care about him, and naturally he wouldn't care about him now. Shui Jianfeng knew that he didn't care about Jiang Wen either, let alone Xiaolong, who he wanted to kill but had to save. Xiaolong was in high spirits, and he didn't care about the two's feelings. The three just stared at each other. After a while, they remembered that Lan Xiaoru wouldn't be able to contact Sky Island so quickly. The three didn't say a word and left with a humph at the same time. One day later, Jiang Wen and the others returned to the meeting room and waited for Lan Xiaoru. They still had the same attitude as yesterday. When Lan Xiaoru came in and saw the three's strange behavior, she felt a headache coming on. It was a classic case of people losing their morale, and it was hard to lead the team. Chapter 5760. Xiaolong frowned. There was no information on Han Jingjing in the professor's memories, so he probably didn't pay much attention to her. Xiaolong's own memories, on the other hand, gave him a better understanding of Han Jingjing. I seem to remember that spirit projection requires one to be at least nascent soul level, right? Is that little bitch Han Jingjing that strong already? Miss Lan, you said last time that the spies on Sky Class Island all paid attention to the women around Lin Yi, and they shouldn't be that strong. Xiaolong rubbed his forehead. The two memories hadn't completely merged yet, so it was a little confusing when he searched through them. It made him feel quite uncomfortable. Lan Xiaoru glanced at Xiaolong. I've asked around, and the information I got was that Han Jingjing created a soft armor of disguise and used it to fool the soul projection device. That's why she was able to return to the mortal world without any problems and still maintain her soul form. To be honest, I really admire her. We've met our match this time. Xiaolong nodded and chuckled. I've met my match. Isn't that a good thing? With Miss Lan here, I don't think that Han Jingjing will be able to make any waves. On the contrary, the things that she has come up with are also very inspiring to us. For example, the camouflage soft armor that can hide from the primordial spirit projection device. Since we know about it, we can always research it. You're quite confident, aren't you? You're a genius with the brains of two professors. Xiaoru smiled faintly, but her expression changed immediately. Not good. I finally understood why Han Jingjing had set up those devices to deal with our attacks. She must have hacked into our system. Xiaolong's face changed as well. The glasses professor and Lan Xiaoru were used to treating the second base as the central holy domain of the seabed. All the systems there were set up by the two of them, and they knew how strong it was against hackers. But this place was built by Jiangwen, and although it was the center standard system, it was far from being able to defend against network attacks. Jiangwen wasn't an idiot. He understood after hearing Xiaoru's words. He was very confident in his men's loyalty, and he didn't think there was a spy. However, he didn't have much confidence in the system's defensive capabilities, because he really didn't know much about it. Lan Xiaoru quickly pulled over the laptop beside her. Her fingers turned into two afterimages as they nimbly danced across the keyboard. Lines of instructions slid down like a screen being refreshed. Those with poor eyesight might not even be able to see the words clearly. Xiaolong didn't idle around, either. He grabbed another laptop and entered the defense network. The glasses doctor and Lan Xiaoru worked well together, and Xiaolong had inherited his memories. It was natural for him to do things like this. In less than 3 minutes, Lan Xiaoru's serious expression loosened. She exhaled softly and said, "The interception was successful. The system has indeed been hacked. This Han Jingjing is truly a genius." Xiaolong's forehead was already covered in cold sweat. He wasn't as relaxed as Xiaoru, his face full of fear. That was close. Our system was already controlled by this little bitch. Luckily, the self-destruct system in the second base is independent and not connected to the external network. Otherwise, if she self-destructed, we'd all be dead. At the mention of self-destruct, everyone, including Xiaoru and Xue Jianfeng, shuddered involuntarily. They clearly remembered the self-destruct in the center of the sea. Although they didn't experience it themselves, the recording of it was quite shocking. It seems like we don't have much of an advantage in terms of technology this time. We need to get rid of him before he wakes up. Since technology doesn't work, we'll have to resort to brute force. Xiaoru narrowed her eyes as she spoke coldly. She then turned to Xue Jianfeng. What? Xue Jianfeng knew that she wanted him to make a move. In order to get the antidote as soon as possible, he immediately lowered his head and said respectfully, "Miss Lan, why don't you let me try a sneak attack?" If it was a frontal attack, Xue Jianfeng knew that he couldn't succeed alone, but if it was a sneak attack, he still had some confidence. Especially since the person he wanted to kill was Lin Yi, Xue Jianfeng was full of motivation. "Xue Jianfeng, how confident are you in succeeding?" Xiaoru indeed wanted Xue Jianfeng to make a move, but if the success rate was too low, she wouldn't force Xue Jianfeng to die. It wasn't easy to cultivate a master of the Black Ascension stage like Xue Jianfeng. There were so many resources in the Jianghu, but in the end, only two succeeded. In the end, one of them, Chen Dongqing, betrayed them. The remaining Xue Jianfeng couldn't be easily killed. Otherwise, there wouldn't be enough resources to cultivate the next one. Xue Jianfeng thought about it seriously and said, if it wasn't for that Languza, the chance of killing Lin Yi is still very high. Not to mention that he's unconscious right now, even if he's awake. As long as I don't fear death and keep using the spirit incinerator, I'll definitely be able to kill him. But with Languza by my side, the chance of success is probably less than 20%. Right, there's also Chen Dongqing. With this despicable traitor, I don't even have a 10% chance of success. Xiaolong seemed to have remembered something and snapped his fingers. He quickly pulled up a blurry video from the computer and said, this is the image taken by the satellite. It's the image of the sea near the center of the sacred region after it self-destructed. I almost forgot about this. Come and take a look. Xiaoru and Xue Jianfeng temporarily put down their discussion and turned to the big screen. In the azure blue sea, there was a blurry image of a dragon, carrying 4 people on its back, moving quickly. It was the image of Languza going to help Lin Yi and the others. However, Languza was too fast and left the range of the satellite in an instant, leaving only this blurry image. Sea dragon, Xue Jianfeng exclaimed. He knew that Languza was the previous sea dragon, but he didn't expect that Languza had evolved into a sea dragon. This was even more difficult to deal with. Maybe he wouldn't even need Lin Yi and Chen Dongqing to do anything. Languza would kill him directly. Chapter 5761. Lan Xiru didn't pay attention to Xue Jianfeng's shock. Instead, she tapped on the table lightly. This was her habit when she entered her thinking mode. To deal with Lin Yi, Languza was an unavoidable obstacle. After evolving into a sea dragon, Languza was definitely not an opponent that could be ignored. Not to mention, the only one who could go toe-to-toe with Languza and Lin Yi was Xue Jianfeng. On Lin Yi's side, other than Languza, there was also Chen Dongqing who betrayed them. Thinking about Chen Dongqing made Lan Xiaoru's teeth itch. If he didn't betray the center, after injecting the new recovery potion, he and Xue Jianfeng could work together to deal with Lin Yi's group. In the current situation, if they wanted to kill Lin Yi, they had to first get rid of Languza and Chen Dongqing. Normally speaking, this was an impossible task, but after thinking about it for a while, Lan Xiru really did come up with an idea. Professor Kong, immediately study Han Jingjing's soft armor with me. We must understand the theory behind it. Lan Xiaoru's fingers paused heavily, her face showing a confident expression as if she had everything under control. Zhao Long, on the other hand, was stunned for a moment. He then asked with uncertainty, Miss Lan, studying the soft armor now? What's the use? Was Xue Jianfeng supposed to disguise himself as a master of mountain opening stage, or even sea-splitting stage to scare Languza and Chen Dongqing? Would they be scared to death by Xue Jianfeng? It didn't seem very reliable, right? Lan Xiaoru curled her lips and smiled mysteriously. Doesn't Han Jingjing like to pretend and deceive people? Let's give her a taste of her own medicine. Studying the theory behind this soft armor isn't to create soft armor, but to create a new device. Xiaolong was indeed the reincarnation of the glasses professor. His rapport with Lan Xiaoru wasn't fake. He immediately understood what was going on. I understand now. Han Jingjing can use this kind of method to fool the spirit projector. If we can master it as well, with a 3D hologram, we can create a virtual image that looks exactly like a real person. These virtual images, as long as they can release the aura of a profound ascension stage, they can definitely distract Languza and Chen Dongqing's attention. Xue Jianfeng will be hidden within them. Whether it's ambushing them or killing Lin Yi, it'll be a piece of cake. Xiaolong got more and more excited as he spoke. His eyes were completely lit up. Jiangwen and Xue Jianfeng couldn't help but admire this. They couldn't join in the conversation between technical maniacs at all, but knowing that there was a chance to kill Lin Yi was enough to make them happy. Just as Lan Xiaoru predicted, as long as they had a common enemy as their target, the conflict between them would be temporarily put aside. There's no time to lose. Based on her judgment, knowing that their position was exposed, and Lin Yi could attack at any time, the people in the center wouldn't stay in the same place no matter how stupid they were. Unfortunately, Han Jingjing also made the same mistake as Lan Xiaoru and the others in the center. She took it for granted. The people in the center took it for granted that Lin Yi was still unconscious, so they didn't have any scruples. And Han Jingjing also took it for granted that the center knew that Lin Yi had woken up. A awakened and angry Lin Yi. It went without saying how much damage he could cause. Both sides were coincidentally like this. One didn't escape in time, and the other didn't chase in time. They were too smart for their own good. Chapter 5762. Languza came over and said, "Boss, since you're awake, why don't I go over and take a look before coming back? If they didn't escape, we can just kill them. What do you think?" When Lin Yi was unconscious, Languza had been guarding the mansion, not daring to leave. Now that Lin Yi had woken up, and Languza heard that there was a possibility of a fight, of course he had to come over and decide on a spot. Han Jingjing waved her hand and smiled. "Languza, stop messing around. They must have escaped. But don't worry, since they want to deal with Lin Yi Gij, they will definitely jump out. As long as we guard here, you don't have to worry about no one to beat up. If they come over when you leave, then you'll miss it." Languza thought about it and agreed. If he missed it because he left, wouldn't it be a pity? It was better to be safe. If he stayed by his boss's side, he wouldn't have to worry about no one beating him up. Sister-in-law Jingjing is right. "Boss, let's wait here for them to come over. See how I'll take care of them." Languza patted his chest, looking like he was taking care of everything. Lin Yi smiled faintly. "Then let's do it this way. We'll just wait for them to come looking for a beating." Han Jingjing quickly operated on the computer, and from time to time, she would communicate with the person in charge of the Songshan City's technology department through her earpiece. She had completely researched the center's UFO, but it was obviously impossible for her to manufacture it by herself. With the manpower and resources of the Supernatural Investigation Bureau and the financial resources of Miracle Dr. Guan Medical Group, they could complete the manufacturing of the UFO in the shortest time possible. The Supernatural Investigation Bureau had the opportunity to come into contact with such a high-tech UFO manufacturing technology, so they were secretly happy. Of course, they would put in the most effort to cooperate with Han Jingjing. "Lin Yi Gij, you're right. We'll wait for them to come looking for a beating, and by then, our UFO will be almost complete, so they won't be able to escape even if they want to." Han Jingjing had a hint of pride on her face as she took the time to smile at Lin Yi. The UFO that was being manufactured was based on the original technology of the center, and it had been improved to perfection. In terms of performance, it completely surpassed the center's UFO. Moreover, Han Jingjing had also improved the space compression technology of the center. After the new UFO was completed, it could freely change its size. The largest it could be was about the size of this villa, and the smallest was about the size of Han Jingjing's palm. Rather than calling it a high-tech product, it would be more appropriate to call it a legendary artifact. Only a heaven-defying person like Han Jingjing could perfectly fuse the technology of the center and the forging technology of Heaven Stage Island to such a degree in such a short time. Lin Yi smiled faintly and said, "It's good to have you by my side. This time, if those fellows from the Central Command dare to come, I will definitely not let them off." On a screen next to Han Jingjing was the scene of the construction of the UFO. Lin Yi leaned over to take a look. The general framework was almost built, and the new shell alloy was about to be covered. These alloys were improved by Han Jingjing after she decomposed the wreckage of the UFO. The technology used was at least 100 years ahead of the current mainstream technology. It was more advanced than liquid metal, so it could cooperate with space technology to change the size of the UFO. "By the way, Jingjing, I happen to have something to ask you. I didn't think of it yesterday." Lin Yi slapped his forehead. When he was in the immemorial small world, he wanted to tell Han Jingjing about the divine sense alchemy fire and the sea beast Niden alchemy. Unfortunately, he couldn't go back to Heaven Stage Island at that time. Now that he met Han Jingjing, he actually forgot about it. Seeing that Han Jingjing could still talk leisurely, Lin Yi also mentioned it casually. It should not disturb her. Lin Yi took out a sea beast Niden of the gold core stage and handed it to Han Jingjing along with some pill recipes collected in the immemorial small world. In the immemorial small world, they all use divine sense to condense the alchemy fire and use the sea beast Niden as the main material for alchemy. I have tried several times, but there is no way to succeed. Hey, is there such a method? It's quite interesting. Han Jingjing took the sea beast Niden and the pill recipe and looked at it over and over several times, and her eyes lit up. For Han Jingjing, it was obviously a very interesting thing to have a new research idea and direction. Lin Yi could throw these problems to her, which was exactly what she wanted. Big brother Lin Yi, it seems that your automatic alchemy furnace needs to be upgraded to a new version, but this is not urgent. Han Jingjing put the sea beast Niden and the pill recipe into her soft armor, then turned back to fiddle with the laptop and continued to set a series of parameters of the flying saucer. Let Jingjing make the first generation of flying saucer for Big Brother Lin Yi first, lest those bad guys in the center escape. Is there anything I can help you with? Lin Yi also knew that he couldn't help Han Jingjing in this regard, but it was still necessary to show his concern. Yes, Big Brother Lin Yi is accompanying Jingjing by my side, which is already a great help. This can make Jingjing full of motivation. Han Jingjing turned her head and gave Lin Yi a bright smile. Lin Yi was suddenly happy and touched his nose. It turned out that he also had a halo of motivation, which he had just discovered. This time, Languza tactfully turned his head and pretended not to hear. Boss and sister-in-law are showing off their love as mentioned on the internet? Humans are really complicated. It seems that this dragon still has a lot to learn. Lin Yi and the center coincidentally formed a tacit understanding. Both sides spent 2 peaceful days in research and manufacturing without any probing or attacks. In these 2 days, Lin Yi didn't waste any time. Other than chatting with everyone often, he put all his effort into refining the last divine sense tumor in his spirit, using the heaven's stolen fortune battle art and the divine sense fruit to cultivate. Although the last divine sense tumor was very stubborn, it was completely refined. When all the divine sense tumors disappeared, Lin Yi's spirit instantly felt a sense of relaxation and joy, as if his whole body was about to ascend to heaven. The powerful divine sense spread out like a tide, and the entire Songshan city appeared in Lin Yi's sea of consciousness. At this moment, it was as if he was standing in the air. Looking down at the city, no matter which remote corner he was in, he could see everything clearly with just a thought. He could even see how much dust was on a bottle cap that someone had thrown on the ground. Chapter 57-63. Lin Yi's body on the heavenly island also exuded a powerful aura. His true chi was constantly surging and circling, and with a loud bang, he advanced to the peak of the profound ascension late stage. If it wasn't for the strong restriction in the Tiandan Pavilion, Lin Yi's aura would have completely crushed his own Tiandan Pavilion. So powerful. Languza felt Lin Yi's aura, opened his mouth wide and said foolishly, he didn't even notice that the steak that had just been stuffed into his mouth fell out. As a mutated dragon and the strength of the profound ascension late stage, Languza was definitely an abnormal existence that could challenge those of a higher level. But under the pressure of Lin Yi's aura, Languza felt that he was not a dragon at all, but a small worm. Just 2 small levels, there was such a huge feeling of suppression. Languza could only say that the boss was the world's #1 abnormal person. Genius was not enough to describe him. Lin Yi had a faint smile on his face and enjoyed this mysterious feeling to his heart's content. However, a flying saucer rushed into the range of his divine sense, and in the blink of an eye, it was about to reach the sky above the villa. The clowns of the center, they really sent themselves to the door. Lin Yi opened his eyes and smiled disdainfully. He had just advanced to the peak of the profound ascension late stage, and the center came to seek death. This could be considered as double happiness, right? Lin Yi retracted all of his divine sense, and Languza immediately noticed the arrival of the flying saucer. He immediately stuffed another 2 steaks into his mouth and said vaguely, "Boss, they really came. Look at how Languza, will deal with them." Chen Dongqing, you are not allowed to make a move. Chen Dongqing raised his hands with a bitter smile, indicating that he would absolutely not intervene. Although he had pledged his allegiance to Lin Yi because he had Languza's genes in his body, he really didn't dare to offend Languza, lest Languza drag him to learn from each other. Languza didn't wait for Lin Yi to answer and directly rushed out of the villa, stamped his feet on the ground, and his body shot into the sky like a cannonball, quickly approaching the flying saucer in the air. In the flying saucer, Xue Jianfeng pressed a button hard and muttered, "Kong Xiaolong, you bastard, please don't trick me. If this thing you installed doesn't work, this young master will definitely settle the score with you later." Before he finished speaking, the flying saucer shook slightly, and circles of faint white ripples lit up around it. Languza had already jumped into the air, and just as he was about to punch the flying saucer, he suddenly found that hundreds of masked practitioners in black appeared around the flying saucer, each of them emitting the powerful aura of the early stage of profound ascension. At the same time, they pulled out the long blades on their backs and launched a fierce slash at Languza. Languza was shocked and couldn't help but cry out, F***Sige, where did so many masters come from? Do they want to divide this handsome guy into pieces? Sure enough, being handsome really attracts jealousy and hate. If it was one or two early-stage profound ascension practitioners, Languza could easily crush them, but it was a completely different concept when there were hundreds of them. Quantitative change can cause qualitative change, and even someone as strong as him couldn't help but feel afraid when facing so many sharp blades at the same time. Languza shouted randomly, but he was secretly shocked. The fist that was originally going to attack the flying saucer suddenly changed direction and landed on the body of the masked man in black closest to him. This punch, Languza didn't use all of his strength, and he began to use his strength before the punch came into contact. The violent force of the punch produced a reverse force in the air, causing his body that was rising to directly stop, and then he began to fall rapidly. Jumping up to deal with a flying saucer wasn't a problem, but to deal with so many early-stage profound ascension practitioners, Languza, who couldn't turn in the air, didn't think that he would come out unscathed, so he immediately returned to the ground. Only by doing this would he have enough space to move. "Boss, a large wave of zombies is attacking. Hurry up and level up the pea shooter." Before Languza landed, he remembered a little game that he had just fallen in love with in the air, and suddenly cried out strangely. Linny immediately laughed. Languza could still talk nonsense so leisurely, which meant that he wasn't under too much pressure, so there was no need to worry too much. In reality, Languza really felt that it was a little strange. Although the 180 masked men in black following closely behind him were full of vigor and murderous intent, he did not feel any sense of danger. Could it be that his sea dragon's strong physical body was enough to block their attacks? Chen Dongqing's face was very ugly, and he quickly got into position to face the enemy. Although he had promised Languza that he wouldn't make a move, now that he sensed so many powerful presences that were not weaker than him coming, if he didn't make a move, Lin Yi would probably suspect that he was a double agent. In the flying saucer, Xue Jianfeng's face was full of joy, and he laughed loudly, as expected of the device that Miss Lan personally designed and made. It was so easy to fool that simple-minded sea beast Languza, and even the traitor Chen Dongqing fell for it. When he said this, Xue Jianfeng's communication device was turned on, and Lan Xiuru, who was in the base, heard everything clearly. Her face naturally showed a trace of a satisfied expression, but it wasn't clear if she was satisfied with the effect of the device, or the fact that Xue Jianfeng accidentally said the truth. Xue Jianfeng's success was all Lan Xiaoru's, and the responsibility of failure was all Xiaolong's. Xue Jianfeng smiled sinisterly, then picked up the spirit incinerator, opened the door of the flying saucer without hesitation, and jumped down lightly. Xue Jianfeng, who left the flying saucer, was dressed in black, and his face was also covered. He was exactly the same as the masked men before him, the only difference being the weapon in his hand. In the courtyard at the bottom of the mansion, there were 3 masked men in black who had dropped down. They attacked Languza and Chen Dongqing like ghosts. Behind them, there were even more masked men in black who had dropped down soundlessly in every corner of the mansion. As long as they weren't facing too many masked men at the same time, Languza didn't have the slightest bit of nervousness. His strong body twisted agilely, and he dodged 2 slashes from the sword. He then split his fists and punched at 2 masked men at the same time. As for the third one, Chen Dongcheng was already 1 step ahead of him. Tisk, meddlesome guy. Languza snorted and didn't pay attention to Chen Dongcheng's act of going back on his words. There were so many masked men in black, and it wasn't a bad thing to have 1 or 2 of them snatched away. The 2 swift and fierce punches avoided any possible parries and successfully arrived in front of the masked man in black. Languza had already turned his gaze to the sky and the roof. He was thinking about where he should take care of the enemy first. Chapter 57-64. Boom. Languza's chest was stuffy, and he almost fell down. It was like running up the stairs with all his strength but stepping on air. The attack that he expected to be a sure hit completely fell into the air. The 2 black-clothed masked men didn't know what kind of movement technique they used. They actually escaped from the place in an instant, and then appeared in the blind spots on both sides of Languza's body in the next second. At the same time, they stabbed the long blades in their hands. Languza was taken aback again. He no longer dared to have the slightest contempt. He tried his best to avoid the 2 long blades. At the same time, he shouted, "Boss, these black-clothed men are very strange. You must be careful." Lin Yi didn't wait for Languza to finish his warning. He had already rushed out of the villa. The whirlpool of divine sense swept around the villa like a gust of wind, but did not attack any physical enemies. Phantom? Lin Yi was slightly startled. In his divine sense, all the black-clothed men were very real, but the whirlpool of divine sense was also not fake. After a sweep, none of the black-clothed men were real. As for the little trick of suddenly disappearing and changing to another side, it had no effect on Lin Yi's divine sense whirlpool at all, because Lin Yi had more than 1 divine sense whirlpool. Under the sweep back and forth, there was absolutely no possibility for a physical entity to avoid it. Just when Lin Yi was stunned for a short time, a blazing white flame sprayed in front of him. In an instant, it was about to wrap around Lin Yi's divine sense body. Once hit, even if Lin Yi was at the peak of the late stage of profound ascension, it was very likely that he would be turned into ashes in an instant. Lin Yi's eyes narrowed. Even if he could dodge, he absolutely could not dodge, because the villa was behind him. There were so many people in the villa, and they were all the people he cared about the most. He must not let this super flame hurt them. It was a pity that Han Jingjing's super flame transformation device was installed on the roof. It could not neutralize attacks from the side. If Han Jingjing had known earlier, she would have installed a few more. Now is not the time to regret. Lin Yi, even at the risk of getting injured, had to deal with this super flame first. He raised his hands, and the 2 newly condensed super pill firebombs in his palms met the super flame. Relying on the control of his divine sense, the 2 bombs were detonated in a direction where no one was around. If the super flame shot out by the primordial spirit incinerator could touch Lin Yi's body, the power would naturally not need to be mentioned. However, it usually did not have a strong impact. After being hit by 2 mini super pill firebombs, it immediately dissipated into the air. Lin Yi relaxed. Fortunately, the super flame did not fall. Otherwise, he would not be able to find a better way to protect the villa in such a hurry. Xue Jianfeng had already flown to the side. He didn't mind that his first super flame didn't succeed. Seeing that Lin Yi wasn't too far away from him, he didn't hesitate to launch his second attack at Lin Yi. Xue Jianfeng. With a sweep of Lin Yi's divine sense, he had already found and recognized Xue Jianfeng among those phantoms. The black mask was completely useless. The second super flame was shot out from the other side. Even if Lin Yi dodged it, it would not fall on his villa. However, its final destination should be the villa's neighbors. Lin Yi couldn't just watch this kind of tragedy that injured the innocent. Once again, he used the mini super pill firebomb to detonate the super flame first. At the same time, the soul-reaping hand fell directly on Xue Jianfeng's head. As long as he could reap Xue Jianfeng's primordial spirit, Lin Yi believed that the central attack would almost be over. Then, it would be time for him to counterattack. Lin Yi, have you exhausted your limited abilities? You only know these 2 moves? Xue Jianfeng laughed wildly and said, An invisible light film lit up on his body, completely blocking the soul-reaping hand outside the light film. Lin frowned slightly and said faintly, "You actually have a tool to defend against divine sense attacks. I've underestimated you. Since that's the case, I'll just beat you up. It doesn't matter to me." Lin didn't find it strange that Xue Jianfeng had a tool similar to the divine commanding bracelet. What was strange was that this tool could actually withstand a blow from his mysterious ascension late stage without collapsing. It seemed that it was not inferior to the divine commanding bracelet. "All right, let this young master have a look." Xue Jianfeng laughed and agreed. He didn't take Lin Yi's words to heart at all. The primordial spirit incinerator in his hand continued to fire blazing white terrifying flames without stopping. Lin Yi didn't speak anymore. While dealing with the super flames, he approached Xue Jianfeng with lightning speed. He casually struck Xue Jianfeng's body with a frenzy 8 trigram palm. Xue Jianfeng avoided the fatal spot, but was sent flying by the palm. Lin Yi could clearly see the serious wounds on his body. But when he landed on the ground, the wounds had already recovered at a speed visible to the naked eye. Looking closely, the remaining small half had already disappeared. Xue Jianfeng's heart calmed down. His biggest reliance was this immortal body. After testing it and confirming that it was effective, his fear towards Lin Yi dropped to the lowest point. He laughed and rushed forward again with the primordial spirit incinerator. Just like what Xue Jianfeng said to Lan Xiaoru, as long as he wasn't afraid of death and withstood Lin Yi's attack, there would be a moment when he would be hit. Since he knew he couldn't die, what was there to be afraid of? He could just kill Lin Yi directly. Lin Yi sneered. Seeing Xue Jianfeng's healing ability, he could roughly guess why the Sacred Alliance wanted the formula for the gold sore medicine. But just based on this, Xue Jianfeng dared to rush forward and fight Lin Yi in close combat. Xue Jianfeng was really stupid and bold. Lin Yi, who hadn't used the super butterfly micro steps for a long time, turned into a shadow and instantly appeared beside Xue Jianfeng. With a simple stretch of his hand, the primordial spirit incinerator fell into Lin Yi's hand. "This toy is, you can give it to Jingjing to kill some time when you're bored. I won't hold back then." Lin Yi's lips curled into a disdainful smile as he spoke to Xue Jianfeng indifferently. Xue Jianfeng was startled. They agreed that he wouldn't be afraid of death and would use the primordial spirit incinerator to counterattack. Now that the primordial spirit incinerator was snatched away by Lin Yi, the only thing left was to be unafraid of death. But it didn't seem to be of much use now, right? "Ha ha ha ha. I'm here to give you this toy to play with. Since you've already received it, I won't stay any longer. Goodbye." Xue Jianfeng laughed dryly and turned to escape. Without a weapon, he was actually still afraid of death. Chapter 5765. Forest of Woods, 1000 Transformations. This was a move that Lin Yi had learned a long time ago. After arriving at Heaven Island, it was basically useless. Even if he used it, it would have been modified. Now that he was using the original version, its power was naturally incomparable to the previous version. In just an instant, several hundred doppelgangers of Lin Yi appeared around the villa, launching attacks on all the black-clothed masked men, including Xue Jianfeng. Although he knew that 99% of them were illusions, the aura of these black-clothed masked men was too realistic. Lin Yi didn't dare to be careless. If one of them really sneaked into the villa, then it would be very troublesome. With Lin Yi's strength, one doppelganger was enough to deal with one black-clothed masked man. The several hundred additional doppelgangers surrounded Xue Jianfeng and beat him up. Even if the power of this martial skill was very small, it would still be very painful to hit the body with such a concentrated attack. Xue Jianfeng immediately burst into tears. Who the hell said that an immortal body was very awesome? Was it fun to be beaten into a pig's head and then recover to become a pig's head again? Sure enough, there was only a fine line between being awesome and being an idiot. Lin Yi was also a little curious about Xue Jianfeng's rapid recovery ability. Therefore, he used the Forest of Woods, 1000 Transformations, which wasn't very powerful, to test it out. He wanted to see what the limit of Xue Jianfeng's endurance was. As for the matter of killing him, he wasn't in a hurry. Xue Jianfeng knew that he couldn't escape. so he simply wanted to counterattack and fight Lin head-on. However, that raindrop-like fists and kicks instantly dissipated the thought of counterattack. At this time, Xue Jianfeng's body was constantly flying around in the air like a billiard ball, bouncing here and there. He couldn't even land his feet on the ground, let alone counterattack Lin Yi. The camouflage device on the flying saucer had already lost its effect. The other doppelgangers of Lin Yi had completely shattered those illusions. They didn't continue to surround Xue Jianfeng and directly dissipated. Boss, this move of yours is really cool. It's very suitable for handsome guys like us. So, boss, you must teach me how to use it later. Languza shouted as he waved his hands around. Sure enough, the moves of the most handsome on Earth's boss are beautiful. The second most handsome on Earth's boss, Zhao Long, shouldn't be any inferior. As for whether this kind of low-power martial technique was useless or not, Languza did not consider it at all. As long as he could act cool, what did he care about the power? If you want to learn it, watch carefully. It's not like it's a difficult martial skill. Lin Yi smiled faintly. With Languza's strength and eyesight, he would be able to grasp such a low-grade martial technique after seeing it a few times. If he liked it, then let him learn it well. Stop. I admit defeat. I surrender. Xue Jianfeng took advantage of the time when Lin Yi slowed down his attack speed to let Languza learn and hastily called out with great effort. Now, Xue Jianfeng felt that this damned immortal body was specially developed to be a human punching bag. Is the bespectacled doctor not sent by Lin Yi to be a spy in the center? No matter how I look at it, it seems like they colluded to trick me. Dafeng killing the bespectacled doctor was just a ruse, right? While Xue Jianfeng's imagination was running wild, Lin Yi's martial technique's duration was also up. Xue Jianfeng, whose face was bruised and swollen like a broken ball, fell to the ground with a thud. He laid on the ground like a dead dog, panting heavily. Languza looked like he wanted to continue. He waved his hand and shouted, "Boss, do it again, do it again. I haven't seen it clearly yet." Hearing this demonic voice, Xue Jianfeng couldn't help but shiver. His body's injuries were rapidly recovering, but the shadow in his heart was multiplying in size. Don't do it. Senior Lin, Uncle Lin, I've already surrendered. You can't mistreat a captive. Xue Jianfeng pleaded loudly while cursing Lin Yi in his heart. This young master's strength is a little weak now. When I level up, I'll definitely kick you around like a ball, and I'll kick you around for an entire day. Lin Yi looked at Xue Jianfeng with a smile that wasn't a smile and said, "When did I agree to accept your surrender? So, you're not my captive. You're F***king trying to kill this young master. No, it's seeking death but not being able to." Xue Jianfeng wanted to cry but had no tears. He continued to lie on the ground and play dead. He said pitifully, "Senior Lin, as a senior, is there any meaning in bickering with a junior like me? Moreover, you've beaten me up for so long. You've already vented your anger. Why don't you treat me as that and let me go?" "It's not that I can't let you go, but I want to do a few more experiments on you first." Lin Yi smiled faintly and said as he slowly walked in front of Xue Jianfeng. Xue Jianfeng's heart was in a dilemma. He estimated the possibility of injuring Lin Yi and escaping if he suddenly launched an attack. The conclusion he came up with was that there was a 99% chance of this happening. However, he wouldn't succeed in escaping and would continue to be beaten up a few hundred times. Since he would be stabbed if he stretched out his head and would be stabbed if he withdrew his head, then what was the point of stretching out his head? Xue Jianfeng thought furiously. Then, he squeezed out a fake smile and said, "Senior Lin, please do as you please. Just tell me how you need me to cooperate. As long as you're satisfied, you can let me go." "Boss, this fellow is really shameless. Can I beat him up? I promise I won't beat him to death." Languza came over and asked eagerly. He had wanted to beat Xue Jianfeng up for a long time. Now that he finally had the chance, how could he miss it? If Lin Yi agreed, it would be even more perfect if he could get rid of Xue Jianfeng. Lin Yi stood in front of Xue Jianfeng and thought for a while before saying, "All right, then Languza, you do it. As long as you don't kill him, you can beat him however you want." The wood forest thousand transformations just now was enough to deal with ordinary profound ascension primary stage cultivators. However, Shui Jianfeng's unlimited healing ability was too powerful. Lin Yi wasn't able to test his limits. Now that he let Languza make a move, he could have a better observation. Languza was overjoyed when he received Lin Yi's nod, cackling as he charged at Shui Jianfeng on the ground. He hadn't even reached Shui Jianfeng yet, but his fist was already hurtling towards Shui Jianfeng with a whistling sound. Shui Jianfeng sighed in his heart. Fortunately, Languza's fist wasn't aimed at his vitals. It seemed that Lin Yi was telling the truth when he said he wouldn't kill him. Since that was the case, he could only grit his teeth and endure. Surviving was the best news. Don't hit my face. Shui Jianfeng raised his hands to protect his head and heart. He cried out in resignation. Then, he began to curse Lin Yi and Languza in his heart. Chapter 5766. Indeed, it was better to be safe than sorry. Without this move, Shui Jianfeng was sure that his days as a human punching bag had just begun. Now, he only needed to hold on for about a minute, and he would be able to escape. Shui Jianfeng cooperated and screamed loudly. Of course, it was really painful. Every time Languza's fist fell, it would take away a piece of flesh from Shui Jianfeng's body. The scene of blood splattering was not suitable for children in movies. However, Shui Jianfeng felt more and more relaxed. Anyway, these injuries would heal very quickly. As long as his head and heart were not blown up, his limbs could be reattached. It was not a big deal. Originally, Languza was worried that he would kill Shui Jianfeng in one go, so he carefully restrained his strength. However, he slowly realized that this guy was really a very qualified punching bag. Ever since he came to the secular world, he had never felt so comfortable beating someone. Therefore, the power on Languza's fist slowly began to be released. As long as he avoided Shui Jianfeng's fatal points, there would be no problem if he did not kill him in one go. Languza, enough? Lin Yi raised his hand and grabbed Shui Jianfeng in front of him. He had basically understood what was going on. Next, he should try to break this fast healing ability. Otherwise, if he encountered a large group of people like this in the future, it would be too passive. Languza said unsatisfied, "Boss, it's rare to see such a punching bag. Why don't you let me hit you for a while longer?" Lin Yi smiled and said, "Don't worry, you will have a chance." Lin Yi would not let go of the central base, so this time, Languza really did not have to worry about not having a chance to make a move. Shui Jianfeng calculated in his heart that he still had about 30 seconds left. Languza had only used 30 seconds to cause him to be riddled with holes. Luckily, his recovery was relatively quick. However, this kind of recovery was not without a price. He could already clearly feel that the vital energy in his body was almost completely depleted. "Senior Lin, are you satisfied now? Are you going to let me go?" Shui Jianfeng continued to use his fake smiling face to numb Lin Yi. The closer it was to the time, the more he didn't dare to be careless, fearing that something unexpected would happen. Lin Yi grabbed onto Shui Jianfeng's arm and felt the emptiness of Shui Jianfeng's Zhen Qi. He nodded and said, "So that's how it is. Your treatment still requires Zhen Qi as an energy supply. Otherwise, you won't be able to sustain such consumption. Indeed, energy is conserved. What is lost. There is no possibility of it being created out of thin air. In that case, this so-called immortality wasn't actually that scary. As long as Shui Jianfeng's vital energy was quickly consumed, he wouldn't be able to continue healing himself in the end." Understanding this point, Lin Yi immediately felt a lot more at ease. Even if the center could mass-produce such combat personnel, as long as the people on his side had enough strength to protect themselves, then it would not be a problem for them to exhaust the opponent's essential qi. However, doing this was still a little too passive. Lin Yi casually sent a stream of 5 elements killing qi into Shui Jianfeng's body. He wanted to see how destructive the 5 elements killing qi was. Unexpectedly, Shui Jianfeng's remaining vital energy was completely suppressed by the 5 elements killing qi. Those injuries that hadn't completely healed stopped healing themselves. As for Shui Jianfeng, whose body was being ravaged by the 5 elements killing qi, He directly laid on the ground and twitched nonstop. His aura was also rapidly weakening. Boss, this guy can't be having an epileptic fit, right? Why is he foaming at the mouth like a crab? Languza used the tip of his foot to poke Xue Jianfeng's body. He didn't see that Lin Yi's 5 elements killing qi had entered Xue Jianfeng's body. He was still muttering in his heart, "Did I go too far just now? Please don't die just like this." If Boss restricted him from fighting in the future because of this, it would be bad. Lin Yi smiled faintly. He also didn't expect the 5 elements killing qi to have such a strong restriction on Xue Jianfeng's self-healing ability. In the future, even if the center could produce a guy with the same strength as him, there was nothing to worry about. High up in the sky, the UFO's timer finally hit 0. A ray of light instantly fell and enveloped Xue Jianfeng. It quickly pulled him up. That speed even caught Lin Yi unprepared. Seeing that Xue Jianfeng was pulled back to the UFO by that ray of light, Languza immediately said anxiously, "This kid wants to run. Boss, I'll go get that UFO." Lin Yi quickly stretched out his hand and stopped Languza. "Wait, let him run." "Let him run again? Boss, are you pitying him because you beat him too badly just now?" Languza asked with some doubt. Previously in Europe, Lin Yi had let Xue Jianfeng off. Why would he let Xue Jianfeng off this time? Boss's heart was too kind. Seeing Languza's unwilling expression, Lin Yi was instantly delighted. He smiled and patted his shoulder, saying, "Don't worry, we only need him to lead the way now. Let's go take a look at the second base in the center." Before he finished speaking, the UFO created by Han Jingjing and the Supernatural Investigation Bureau had already become bigger. After activating the invisibility device, it floated above the villa. Other than the opening of the hatch below, which revealed the interior space, the rest of the space was empty. Nothing could be seen. Lin Yi turned around and instructed Qin Dongqing, "Dongqing, I'll leave this place to you. As long as Xue Jianfeng doesn't come, no one should be able to threaten you." "Grandmaster, rest assured. There will definitely be no problem leaving this place to me." Qin Dongqing quickly bowed and agreed. It was rare for Lin Yi to have a use for him. This made him quite happy. Although it was just a task to watch over the villa, it was enough to make him happy. Languza urged on the side, "Boss, let's go. Otherwise, that guy will disappear without a trace." Lin Yi smiled slightly and entered the UFO's open hatch first. Languza also jumped in. Han Jingjing was already waiting inside. When she saw Lin Yi come in, she smiled and said, "Brother Lin Yi, I'll go with you." Jingjing is very interested in the technology of the center base. "Then let's go. Don't let Xue Jianfeng's UFO really run away." Lin Yi did not object. With him protecting her, Han Jingjing would definitely not be in any danger. Moreover, there was also Languza following. "Brother Lin Yi, don't worry. He can't run away." Han Jingjing smiled sweetly and controlled the UFO to chase after him like lightning. Chapter 57-67. If the Supernatural Investigation Bureau wanted to replicate another UFO, even if they succeeded, they wouldn't have enough spiritual jades to power it. Fortunately, Han Jingjing gave them a purely technological design of the UFO, which could be replaced with nuclear power. In terms of the technological system, Han Jingjing referred to the data obtained from the center's computer and improved it. After becoming invisible, Xue Jianfeng's UFO couldn't detect that someone was following them. If Xue Jianfeng was still in his normal state, he might be more careful, but he was being tortured by Lin Yi's murderous aura. Before it was resolved, he couldn't divert his attention to control the UFO. Being able to fly back was completely the system's preset escape plan. In the blink of an eye, Lin Yi's UFO was already close to Xue Jianfeng's UFO, and then they saw the entrance of the chemical plant. "So it's hidden here. I didn't expect it to be in the outskirts of Songshan City. The center is using the principle of hiding under the light. They're really cunning." Lin Yi really didn't expect the center's second base to be so close to his villa. Even when he was advancing, he could have found this base if he extended his divine sense a little more. "Lin Yi Gidge, these guys from the center are really cunning. I hacked into their system before, but I couldn't determine the exact location, so it's really close." Han Jingjing said with some surprise. From this point of view, Han Jingjing even felt that her previous hacking into the network was a failure. Even if she obtained all the information, she couldn't determine the location. It seemed like the other party didn't leave any information about this. They were indeed the masters of cunning. Languza rubbed his hands excitedly and said, "Boss, sister-in-law Jingjing, there seems to be a lot of people here. Let me go down first to open a path for you two?" Before he finished speaking, the base's alarm system started ringing crazily. Although Han Jingjing's UFO was invisible, when it followed the UFO in front of it to land, it was detected by the alarm system. Intruders! They followed Xue Jianfeng's UFO in. Lan Xiru's expression suddenly changed. At this time, the first thing she thought of was the scene when the center's sacred realm was breached by Lin Yi. Languza, go. Do your best to destroy the facilities in this base. Lin Yi waved his hand casually and ordered Languza calmly. Don't worry, boss. Leave it to me. Languza laughed and immediately jumped out of the cabin door. Since he had been discovered, then he would attack openly. Anyway, Lin Yi's goal was to find this place. Now that his goal had been achieved, it didn't matter anymore. Xue Jianfeng hurriedly escaped from the flying saucer that had landed first. Although he was unable to resolve the 5 elemental killing intent that was wreaking havoc in his body, his physical strength and true energy had recovered a little during this period of time on the flying saucer. Therefore, he had activated his self-healing ability, allowing him to regain his mobility. Seeing Languza descending from the sky, Xue Jianfeng didn't say a word and turned around to run back into the base. He was already traumatized from the beating he received earlier, and his true energy had just recovered a little. He didn't dare face Languza at all. Jiang Wen was also shocked when he heard the alarm. This base was his blood, sweat, and tears for many years. How was it possible that someone had entered? Most of the most advanced defense systems and weapons were installed outside. In other words, after Lin Yi's flying saucer entered, most of the base's defenses became mere decorations. The base has entered special combat mode. All personnel, get into combat positions. We must eliminate the intruders. Jiang Wen didn't care about the stunned Lan Xiaoru. He pounced on the control panel and yelled at the communicator, activating the base's defense system. Languza hadn't even landed on the ground, and his eyes were already on the escaping Xue Jianfeng. His boss said that the guy was there to lead the way, and since he was already here, there was no use for him anymore. Killing him should be fine, right? As he thought to himself, Languza had already let out a loud roar. His fists released powerful vital energy, and he struck the walls of the base with a loud bang. Before he caught up to Xue Jianfeng, he would first follow his boss instructions and destroy some of the central facilities. But these walls were all made of alloy, and it wasn't something that could be destroyed with just 2 punches. Languza could only leave 2 deep marks and a violent tremor at most. The tremor hadn't even subsided when round muzzles appeared on the alloy walls. Tongues of flame that were almost a meter long shot out, forming a metal storm on the landing platform. Languza jumped in fright. He quickly curled up his body to protect his vitals and charged into the door that Xue Jianfeng escaped from. Even so, his body was hit by 200 to 300 bullets in an instant. Fortunately, these high-rate machine gun bullets didn't pose much of a threat to Languza's body. It did hurt a little, but it only left white spots on his body. Unfortunately, the clothes on Languza's body had already become a real tattered outfit. There were burnt black holes everywhere. This made Languza, who liked handsome clothes and styling, unable to tolerate it. Who did this? Get the hell out here. I promise I won't beat you to death. Languza roared angrily and unleashed all of his abilities. He began to destroy everything in sight with a crackling sound. As for Lin Yi and Han Jingjing, Languza wasn't worried at all. These bullets were enough to hurt normal people, but it wasn't a problem for Lin Yi and Han Jingjing at all. Their Yuan Shun was completely immune to physical bullets. Han Jingjing put the flying saucer in her palm and put it into her armor. She smiled at Linny. Linny bro, the command center is welcoming us with firecrackers. They're quite enthusiastic, but it's a little too noisy. I think it's a little noisy too. Let's calm them down a little. Lin Yi smiled faintly. A couple of lightning bolts struck the alloy wall, burning all the wires. All the machine guns stopped firing immediately. Languza, who was in front, was still yelling furiously. Ruining his image was simply an irreconcilable feud. The hundreds of biohumans that Jiangwen sent out weren't even comparable to ants in front of Languza. The weak biohumans were swept away with a single sweep, and they couldn't even stop Languza's footsteps. Chapter 5768. Jiangwen's face was pale as he looked at the monitor. In fact, wherever Lin Yi and the others walked past, the monitors all turned black, and nothing could be seen. But the entire base was rumbling, and he didn't need to look to know that it was going to be forcefully demolished. Thinking about how much time and effort it took to build this second base, Jiangwen wanted to vomit blood. This damned Lin Yi, he really was his nemesis. When Lin Yi wasn't around, everything went smoothly for him. Now that he met his nemesis, he'd lose everything he'd earned. Lan Xiaoru was helpless as well. She'd done so much, and she really thought that she'd be able to take out Lin Yi's primordial spirit this time. Who would have thought that Lin Yi would come knocking on their door again? It had only been a few days. Was the self-destruction scene going to happen again? Miss Lan, let's retreat. It'll be too late otherwise, Xiaolong said, panicking. He'd inherited the glasses professor's memories, yes, but his fear of Lin Yi wasn't any less than Xue Jianfeng's, especially after House Kang's defeat at the hands of Lin Yi. It'd be weird if he wasn't scared now, especially after what happened. Lan Xiaoru smiled bitterly. Leave? Go where? If we lose this second base, do we still have a base to stay in? The center's main focus was on Sky-class Island, and there weren't many resources in the common world. Plus, the ancient Jianghu's operation had failed, and they'd lost a lot of resources. Losing 2 bases in a row was something even Lan Xiaoru couldn't accept. The third base did have plans, but it was still in the construction phase and couldn't be used. As for the other bases under the center's control, they couldn't satisfy Lan Xiaoru's research needs. Jiangwen and Xiaolong fell silent. If they could take out Lin Yi, self-destructing a base was nothing, but if the explosion from the center didn't manage to stop Lin Yi, this second base wouldn't have any effect. Most importantly, although the center was powerful, it had always been hidden in the dark. Otherwise, it would be boycotted by the scientific institutions of various countries, and that would be a tough time. Lin Yi, stop first. Let's talk. Lan Xiaoru sighed softly. She could only shout to Lin Yi through the base's broadcast system. Miss Lan, what are you going to do? Lin Yi is such a dangerous guy. How can you meet and negotiate with him? We should hurry up and leave. Where there's life, there's hope. Xiaolong panicked. He didn't want to see Lin Yi at all. Who could stop him if he wanted to kill him? Lan Xiaoru ignored Xiaolong and repeated her words. She was just a clone, after all, and it didn't matter if she died. As long as she had the genetic data, she could be reborn at any time. Lin Yi looked up at a surveillance camera above his head. This time, he did not continue to destroy it. Instead, he smiled at the camera and said, Miss Lan, we meet again so soon. Last time, you self-destructed so miserably. Are you going to self-destruct again this time? With the center's technology, Lin Yi believed that Lan Xiaoru could hear what he said, so he didn't bother to use telepathy or anything like that. Lan Xiaoru laughed and said, Lin Yi, you're not afraid of me, are you? Otherwise, you wouldn't be afraid to come and negotiate with me. How about it? Tell your little brother Flood Dragon to stop first. If this place collapses, we'll all die together. Lin Yi shrugged, looking nonchalant. It didn't matter how big the impact was, it had nothing to do with him. Plus, this was the center of the city, and there weren't any civilians living nearby. Blowing this place up wouldn't cause any casualties. As for Lan Xiaoru saying that Lin Yi didn't dare to negotiate with her, he didn't take it to heart. He came all the way here to catch them. Now that his divine sense had locked down the entire area, even if Lan Xiaoru wanted to run, she wouldn't be able to escape from his lockdown. Languza, just destroy most of this place, don't make it collapse. Lin Yi shouted deliberately. Languza also responded loudly from afar. Lan Xiaoru's expression was getting uglier and uglier, but there was nothing she could do. Now that all the combat power in this base had been brought out, not to mention Lin Yi, even if it was just Languza himself, there was no way he could be stopped. This time, it was the center that provoked them first, and Lin Yi seized the opportunity to beat them up on the ground. It couldn't be helped. They asked for it. Who else could they blame? Lin Yi's divine sense found that Lan Xiaoru, Zhaolong, and Zhang Wen had no intention of running. It seemed that they really wanted to negotiate, so he didn't delay and continued on the shortest route, walking slowly. The wall of the control room was made by Lin Yi with a wave of his hand. It was just enough for two people to walk side by side. With this newly opened door, he and Han Jingjing walked in hand. Lan Xiaoru, Zhang Wen, and Zhaolong were already standing in front of this wall. Obviously, they knew that Lin Yi would come through here, so their expressions were very calm. Zhang Wen, why is it you again? Didn't I warn you last time that I'll kill you if you come out and cause trouble again? It seems like you didn't take it to heart at all. Lin Yi knew that Zhang Wen was here, but he acted like he just found out and said coldly. Zhang Wen's heart skipped a beat. His fear of Lin Yi was also bone deep. When he heard Lin Yi mention what he said on the phone last time, he immediately shook his head and said, "It's none of my business. I'm just following orders. Plus, I've never been to that house of yours even once. If you want to find trouble, go find Xue Jianfeng. Don't come looking for me." At this critical moment, Zhang Wen didn't hesitate to use Xue Jianfeng as a shield. After all, he didn't like this arrogant guy for a long time. If it wasn't for him bringing Lin Yi back, this base wouldn't have become like this. Lin Yi smiled coldly. "You're already standing here, and you're still saying it's none of your business? Do you think I'm a 3-year-old? I'll deal with you later." Zhang Wen was dumbfounded. Was Lin Yi targeting him? But there was another big boss here. Of course, he didn't dare say this out loud. Either side wouldn't let him go. Chapter 5769. Lin Yi smiled faintly and said, "Just say what you want to say. Whether I underestimated you or not, I know better than you." "Lin Yi, can your little brother Zhaolong stop now? Isn't it good to be quiet when we're negotiating?" Lan Xiaoru suddenly smiled very gently, which made Lin Yi, who had seen how crazy she self-destructed, very uncomfortable. Feeling that the facilities of the entire base were almost destroyed by Languza, Lin Yi didn't waste any time and called him back. Languza, who was wearing a tattered outfit, obviously hadn't vented enough. Seeing the 3 core figures in the center, he stared at them with an extremely unfriendly expression. Lan Xiaoru nodded nonchalantly and said, "It's much quieter now. Mr. Lin, please come and sit down." Pointing to the sofa in the control room, Lan Xiaoru walked over and sat down first, finally recovering her previous domineering style. Zhang Wen and Kang Zhaolong were qualified to sit with Lan Xiaoru, but these two guys always felt a wave of fear when facing Lin Yi. Especially in this situation, if they could escape, they definitely didn't want to appear in front of Lin Yi, so they simply stood behind the sofa, hoping that Lin Yi wouldn't notice them. Lan Xiaoru was also helpless towards these two guys' behavior. With this kind of cowardly behavior, how could she count on them to deal with Lin Yi in the future? But now was not the time to care about them. She would deal with them when she had time in the future. Lin Yi took Han Jingjing's hand and sat down with a golden saber. He said calmly, "Now you can speak. Do you want to apologize to me, or what?" Lan Xiaoru combed the hair on her forehead, and a mocking smile appeared at the corner of her mouth. "Admit my mistake and apologize? Aren't you thinking too highly of yourself? I admit that I can't kill you, but this doesn't mean I'm afraid of you. You know that I'm immortal. So are these people of yours in the secular world?" Lin Yi's expression changed slightly. Lan Xiaoru was clearly using the people in the villa to threaten him, but he couldn't refute her. This second base was indeed more than half destroyed, but Lan Xiaoru was right. Even if Lin Yi killed her here again, she would still be alive and kicking after a few days, and it was impossible for Lin Yi to stay in the secular world and not return to Heaven Stage Island. Lan Xiaoru was determined to target the people in the villa, so there was nothing Lin Yi could do. Even if he left Languza and Chen Dongqing to protect them, they would still be caught off guard. "Miss Blue, are you threatening me?" Lin Yi said with a cold smile. Even if he was really threatened, he would not show the slightest difference. Instead, he would be more domineering. If it's a threat, you can give it a try. Let's see if the center will still appear in this world. Lan Xiaoru was silent for a moment, then she smiled and said, I'm just letting you know this fact. Why are you so agitated? Lin Yi didn't want to continue this topic, so he said, I have always maintained a delicate balance with your center. This time, you uncharacteristically want to put me to death. Is it your personal intention or the center's intention? Do you want to start an all-out war with me? Lan Xiaoru was startled. Obviously, she didn't expect Lin Yi to say it so straightforwardly. She immediately shook her head and said, You're wrong. Your spirit will be destroyed, but your physical body won't die because your spirit came here through projection. So, if I kill your spirit body here, there won't be any problem with your physical body on Heaven Stage Island. In this way, you'll still be alive. It won't be considered breaking the rules, and your elders won't be desperate enough to risk their lives. You're the desperate one who wants to risk your life, right? Otherwise, you wouldn't have caused so much trouble. Lin Yi snorted coldly. He finally understood the center's wishful thinking. It was rare that Lan Xiaoru didn't hide it, and she had some attitude of negotiating openly. As long as his physical body wasn't destroyed, even if he lost his spirit, Lin Yi's elders still felt that there was a chance to save him. So Lan Xiaoru thought that this was an excellent opportunity. And if Lin Yi died, no one in the secular world, Heaven Stage Island, or even the small ancient underworld could restrain him. Then, the center's days would definitely be much better, and its development would be much smoother. This was Lan Xiaoru's real purpose. Lin Yi knew that it was meaningless to talk about this anymore. He immediately crossed his legs and put on a high posture of a winner. Okay, there's no need to talk about these things anymore. Just tell me how you're going to compensate me for my loss. Lan Xiaoru's pretty face darkened slightly. What loss do you have? It's our center that lost. Okay? 2 entire bases were destroyed, and we even lost 2 of our most capable people. Can't you have some shame? Lin Yi, Mr. Lin, I hope you understand that I'm not begging for your forgiveness, but a fair negotiation with you. I can guarantee that I won't take the initiative to attack you and the people around you in the future. This matter will end here. What do you think? Lan Xiaoru also knew that Lin Yi wouldn't give up without some benefits, but of course, she couldn't reveal her bottom line in a negotiation, so she threw out such an argument to see Lin Yi's reaction first. Lin Yi sneered and said, Do you think I will believe your words just based on your insincere performance? Instead of that, why should I waste time negotiating with you? In short, show me your sincerity, or it will end here. Lan Xiaoru smiled calmly and said, What sincerity do you want me to show? It's true that I was the one who provoked you 2 times, but it's also my side that suffered the greatest loss. The 2 bases are almost all the trump cards in my hand. You know the situation better than me now. Even if I want to deal with you again, I can't. What are you still worried about? Lin Yi didn't say anything, just looked at Lan Xiaoru coldly. It was useless to say this kind of nonsense. If this woman only wanted to pretend to be polite and deceive him, he would have to consider whether he should cut off all means of retreat, kill them regardless of the loss, and then wipe out the remaining forces of the center all over the world. As for those people in the villa, they definitely couldn't stay in the secular world anymore. Kang Xiaobo, Lai Changyi, and the others must give up everything and all move into the immemorial underworld. With Lin Yi's prestige and power in the immemorial underworld, he should be able to ensure their safety. However, unless it was absolutely necessary, Lin Yi would never do this. Chapter 5770. Previously, she said that she wouldn't take the initiative to attack Lin Yi and the people around him in the future, and there was no time limit. Not to mention Lin Yi, even she didn't believe it herself. The 1-year limit made her words more convincing. After all, the Central Command Center had indeed suffered a great loss this time, and even a year of recuperation might not be enough to recover. Lin Yi was also very helpless. If he could uproot the Central Command Center this time, he wouldn't hesitate to kill them all, but these guys couldn't be killed completely. If the secular world wasn't stable, he wouldn't be able to feel at ease even if he returned to Heaven Island. Being able to hurt the Central Command Center today and make them promise not to deal with Lin Yi's people for a period of time was an acceptable result. Time. Not only did the Central Command need it, but he also needed it very much. While Lin Yi was still thinking, Lan Xiaoru spoke again. Mr. Lin, when you return to Heaven Island, you might run into me. I know you have a lot of businesses and close friends on Heaven Island. If we can't coexist peacefully, it's best if you can appear in multiple places at the same time like me. You also know that there are all kinds of natural disasters in the world now. You probably can't save everyone in every place by yourself, right? I said, don't threaten me. It's useless against me. Lin Yi said calmly, but his heart tightened. Lan Xiaoru had the cloning technology to create a clone, but he only had one. If the Central Command Center's Chamber of Commerce on Heaven Island suddenly launched an operation against him, the damage would definitely be devastating. If it wasn't for the fear of the elders behind Lin Yi, the strength of the Central Command Center was indeed not something that Lin Yi could fight alone. Lan Xiaoru smiled indifferently. Mr. Lin, it's good that you don't threaten me. How would I dare to threaten you? As I said before, this is just a statement of fact. After a slight pause, Lan Xiaoru softened her tone and said, in any case, we lost this time. The information you copied from Base 2 system can be considered as compensation. I won't ask for it back. Heh, how generous. Using something that already belongs to us as compensation. How sincere. Lin Yi looked at Lan Xiaoru mockingly and said without any trace of politeness, since you know that you lost this time and took the initiative to surrender, do you believe that I won't blow this place up if you don't take out some practical benefits? Although most of Base 2's facilities had been destroyed, the overall structure was still intact. In terms of losses, it was at most 30% to 40%. If Lin Yi really wanted to blow this place up, then Central Command would really suffer a huge loss. Lan Xiaoru was silent for a moment before she asked, what do you want? These are the only things here. Is there anything else that catches your eye? Lin Yi also scratched his head. Yes, this place was already like this. Was there anything valuable left? He had only said it casually. He felt that it would be a loss if he did not ask for some benefits. However, he did not know what conditions he should ask for. The most important thing for Central Command was, of course, technology. However, all the information of Base 2 had been copied by Han Jingjing. It was meaningless for Lin Yi to ask Central Command to compensate tens of billions of yuan. Han Jingjing, who had been silent all this while, suddenly said, Big Brother Lin Yi, I saw a record in their information. It said that Central Command found a wormhole tunnel that connects to Heavenly Island. After using technology to improve it, things can be transmitted between each other. However, there is no detailed information here. Lin Yi's eyes lit up. That's right, that's it. Back then, he had won the right to transmit a letter at the auction and received a reply from the secular world. The Central Chamber of Commerce on Heavenly Island also continuously sold technological products from the secular world. All of this was probably because of this wormhole tunnel. What could be more precious than this? Lin Yi couldn't help but feel a little excited. He immediately said, this shouldn't be fake, right? Lan Xiaoru admitted generously, that's right. There are so many things from the secular world on Heavenly Island. I think you guys have already guessed it. However, it is impossible for you guys to take over this wormhole tunnel. Han Jingjing smiled and said, I know you guys won't let us monopolize this wormhole tunnel, but opening this location and letting us participate in the research of the wormhole shouldn't be a problem, right? You have to know that I can return to Heavenly Island at any time and project back to the secular world at any time. Since I know the existence of this wormhole, do you think I can find its location? Lan Xiaoru was slightly startled. Only then did she realize that her threat just now was a little ridiculous. Not to mention that Central Command still had scruples and did not dare to launch a full-scale attack on the people around Lin Yi. Even if they had no scruples, with a genius like Han Jingjing around, they might not be able to gain the overall upper hand. Especially with their method of sending their primordial spirits back and forth, it seemed to be more convenient than her contacting Heavenly Island. If they really wanted to launch a full-scale attack, they would be completely suppressed by Han Jingjing in terms of timing. To be honest, the research on the wormhole tunnel was still in its early stages. If they could let Han Jingjing participate in the research, the progress would be much faster. This wasn't a bad thing for Central Command. I understand, but I can't make the decision on this matter. I need to discuss it with the main body of Heavenly Island first. If it's possible, then we'll come to a temporary ceasefire for a year. What do you think? Lan Xiaoru only hesitated for a moment before giving her reply. Although she didn't agree on the spot, Lin Yi thought that this was already half a success. All right, if that's the case, we'll go back first today. Let us know when you have news. Lin Yi stood up and prepared to leave with Han Jingjing and Languza. Seeing Jiang Wen and Xiaolong cowering behind the sofa, Lin Yi stopped in his tracks and warned, Jiang Wen, remember my words. Behave, or you won't be so lucky next time. And Xiaolong, don't learn from your idiot brother. You won't die if you don't look for trouble, understand? If it wasn't for the fact that they couldn't uproot Central Command at the moment and could only choose to stop for a year, Lin Yi wouldn't let these guys go today. Even Xue Jianfeng, who was hiding in a room in the corner of the base, wouldn't let these guys go. But overall, Lin Yi didn't lose out in these two battles. Instead, he gained quite a lot of benefits. It didn't matter if he let them go. Chapter 5771. Before leaving, Lin Yi secretly left a divine sense mark on Lan Xiaoru and the others. As long as they were still in the secular world, he would be able to know their location at any time. This way, even if he let them go today, it would be very easy to find them in the future. It was a pity that he forgot to leave a divine sense mark on Xue Jianfeng. However, this guy was no longer a concern. Lin Yi was too lazy to find him again. He would deal with it next time. After leaving the control room, Lin Yi directly broke a big hole in the top floor and jumped up with the two of them. In midair, Han Jingjing released the UFO that had shrunk. After the three of them entered, they disappeared in a flash. Back at the villa, the news of the center admitting defeat was announced. Everyone was naturally very happy. Although they did not completely eliminate the center, such a victory was necessary to have a simple celebration. Big brother Dafeng brought Chun, Dongqing to Lin Yi and bowed respectfully. Boss Lin Yi, you are still the best. You took care of two of the center's bases at once. This time, they should really know their place. Come, sit down and talk. Lin Yi asked the two of them to sit down. It just so happened that he was also thinking about how to arrange things for these two people. Thank you, boss, Marshal Uncle. Both of them replied respectfully and sat down beside Lin Yi. Chen Dongcheng was very excited now. When he heard the news of the center admitting defeat, he felt that he was really wise. Being able to join Lin Yi's sect was much better than being a lab rat in the center. Xue Jianfeng, that idiot, could not understand why he was beaten like a dead dog. Was it fun? In the past, he felt that the center was very powerful, but now Chen Dongqing felt that Lin Yi was even more powerful. He could beat the center to the ground. It was simply too powerful. Lin Yi looked at the two of them and asked faintly, Dafeng, Dongqing, what plans do you two have for the future? Both of them were startled. When they remembered that Lin Yi could not always keep them by his side, they were suddenly at a loss. Big brother Feng was already used to being an undercover in the center. Now that he was suddenly cleared, he really did not think about where he could go and what he could do. Chen Dongqing was almost the same. He could go back to the Green Cloud sect in the North Island, but there was Yu in the Green Cloud sect in the North Island. Even if he went back, he would not have much room for development, especially when he thought that if he went back and faced Yu pretentious face all day, how bad would his mood be? Boss Lin Yi, I originally planned to stay by your side and serve you, but I heard that you can't bring anyone with you when you go back to Sky State Island, so I don't know what to do. Dafeng Bro thought for a long time and could only smile bitterly. His roots were all in the center. Moreover, with the weaknesses of the Snow Sword sect's martial arts techniques, after targeted practice, Xue Jianfeng would not be afraid, especially when Lin Yi also gave him the follow-up martial arts techniques of the North Island's Blue Cloud sect. After thoroughly understanding them, his strength would definitely be able to improve to another level. Train well, I won't mistreat you. Lin Yi nodded faintly, then turned to Dafeng Bro and said, Defeng, I haven't thought about your arrangements yet, so let's wait and see. If you have any ideas, you can tell me anytime. I will definitely arrange it for you. I understand. Thank you, boss. Defeng Bro quickly smiled and thanked him, then pulled Chun Dongqing up and left. There were too many people who wanted to talk to Lin Yi. It was already good enough that the two of them could talk to each other for a while. They couldn't always occupy Lin Yi's place and annoy people. As expected, as soon as Defeng Bro and Chun Dongqing left, Yu Bing and Yu Dake walked over, ready to talk to Lin Yi. One day later, Lan Xiaoru took the initiative to contact Lin Yi, saying that Heaven Island had already agreed to share the location of the wormhole with them, and that they could also cooperate with Han Jingjing to research and develop the wormhole. As for the specifics, Lin Yi and the others had to go over and discuss it again. Chapter 5772. This guy still remembered the holes in his clothes, but he didn't think about the fact that he almost demolished the second base. Lan Xiaoru, Jiang Wen, and the others didn't even have a place to cry. Chun Dongqing also wanted to go. He wanted Xue Jianfeng to see that after he left the center, his life was much better than Xue Jianfeng's. Lin Yi waved his hand. We're not going to fight today. You guys don't have to follow. I'll go with Jing Jing. Speaking of this, Lin Yi seemed to have thought of something and turned to Dafeng Bro. Dafeng, come with me. You might be able to help. Dafeng Bro was startled and quickly stepped forward. Okay, boss. As for Lin Yi saying that he could help, Dafeng Bro couldn't think of anything. Could it be that he wanted to use his undercover identity to anger Lan Xiaoru and the others? Bringing Qin Dongqing seemed to have the same effect, right? Although he was confused, Dafeng Bro didn't ask much. Anyway, he just followed Lin Yi's orders. When he was in the center's holy, he had already sworn in his heart that he would sacrifice his life for his boss. The three of them got on the flying saucer and arrived above the second base in the blink of an eye. Languza only destroyed the internal equipment. From the outside, there didn't seem to be much damage. Other than the huge skylight that Lin Yi opened when he left, it basically maintained the appearance of the chemical factory. Lin Yi's divine sense swept the entire base first. Lan Xiaoru and the others were among them. Even Xue Jianfeng was on the side. The base's defense system was basically paralyzed, and there were no other ambushes. It seemed that the people in the center really didn't have any thoughts of playing tricks. After confirming that it was safe, Lin Yi took Han Jingjing and Dafeng Bro and jumped down from the skylight he opened. They went directly to the place where they met last time. This time, it was still Lan Xiaoru sitting on the sofa alone, with Jiang Wen, Zhaolong, and Xue Jianfeng standing behind her. Seeing Lin Yi walk in, all three of them, other than Lan Xiaoru, had unnatural expressions on their faces. Lan Xiaoru did not stand up to welcome Lin Yi, and Lin Yi did not intend to waste time greeting her. When passing by Xue Jianfeng, Lin Yi also made a spiritual sense mark on him. Then he pulled Han Jingjing to sit down. After signaling Brother Dafeng to sit down together, Lin Yi said straightforwardly, Miss Lan, we can start talking now. Lan Xiaoru was still a little confused about Big Brother Feng's arrival. She didn't know why Lin Yi brought him here, but she wouldn't care about a traitor. She glanced at him and ignored him. Picking up the two documents on the table, she pushed them to Lin Yi and said, This is the agreement. It is agreed that the war will be armistice for a year, and the wormhole tunnel will be opened for your research. If there are no problems, sign it. Lin Yi picked it up with a smile, flipped it twice and said, Do you think this is business? Why sign an agreement? I don't think this kind of thing will have any binding force on you. Similarly, this thing would not have any binding force on Lin Yi. It was definitely not a piece of paper that could make both sides have a temporary truce. It was the comparison of the strength of both sides and their respective scruples. A year of armistice was the time that the center of the secular world calculated that they could recover. It was also the buffer period that Lin Yi estimated that he could improve his strength and find a way to deal with the center. Both sides had this intention, so they reached this kind of armistice agreement. Lin Yi had no doubt that during this year, if there were any changes in the center, such as a significant increase in strength or any favorable progress in the confrontation with Lin Yi's elders, this agreement would immediately be torn to shreds and thrown into the garbage basket. Lan Xiaoru snorted and said, We pay the most attention to the spirit of the contract, so it's normal to sign an agreement. Are you going to tear it up before reaching an agreement? Linny smiled faintly. This woman wasn't just a lunatic, she was a shameless lunatic as well. Everything she said had to be taken the other way around. However, Linny had no doubts about this one-year armistice agreement. As long as the center's strength did not suddenly skyrocket, they should maintain this agreement. Even if it was not for a year, it should be at least 10 months. I'm too lazy to talk nonsense with you. Since you like to sign an agreement, then sign it. Linny flipped through it again, but he was not very clear about the content of this agreement, so he handed it to Han Jingjing. When Han Jingjing appeared as Lu Jinghan, she was the helmsman of the Lu Group, an absolute business goddess. It was not an exaggeration to say that it was a waste of talent to let her read this kind of agreement. To be honest, Linny admired Han Jingjing very much. Whether it was in business, scientific research, or cultivation, she could become one of the top people. It was not an exaggeration to say that such a genius was hard to come by in 1,000 years. After Han Jingjing took the document, she casually flipped through it. Her movements were similar to Lin Yi's just now. She only glanced at each page. In just 10 seconds, the document was flipped by her. People who were not familiar with her would think that she was just flipping through it randomly. Only those who had dealt with Lu Jinghan would understand that she would still not miss a word in this situation. There is nothing in general, but there is one thing here. Can you trouble Miss Lan to explain it to us? Han Jingjing turned the document upside down, turned it to the middle, and pointed to a small line in it. Linny also glanced at it, but he did not find anything wrong. However, since Han Jingjing specifically pointed it out, it was obvious that there was a problem in it. Lan Shiru's face was calm. She faintly looked at the place where Han Jingjing's finger pointed and nodded. I'm sorry. My men probably made a mistake. I will make a new copy for you. She had a notebook next to her. She picked it up and tapped a few times on the keyboard. The printer in the corner began to print out the agreement. Lin Yi secretly sneered. It was all ready. If Han Jingjing did not find the problem, it would be fine. If she found it, she could reprint it immediately. The most rare thing was that Lan Xiaoru actually acted as if nothing had happened. Her skin was really thick. However, Lin Yi did not care much about this agreement, so he was too lazy to ask Han Jingjing what problem she found. As long as it was corrected, it was fine. Chapter 57-73. Han Jingjing looked through it again and didn't find any hidden problems. She also knew that Lin Yi didn't mind, but since they were going to sign, they couldn't leave anything behind. No problem, but these are the terms you proposed. We haven't even said anything yet. Han Jingjing had completely entered Lu Jinghan's mode. She put down the agreement calmly and got into a negotiating stance. Lan Xiaoru nodded nonchalantly. You can say it. Go ahead. Han Jingjing turned to look at Lin Yi. She said this only to set up a stage for Lin Yi. In the end, it was still Lin Yi who decided what to say. Lin Yi had already thought about it before coming, so he said confidently, I only have one request. Other than developing the wormhole tunnel together, I want to send a spokesperson here. Let's make him the director of your center. You guys know this person, it's Dafeng. Dafeng Bro was slightly startled when his name was called, but he couldn't go against Lin Yi's decision, so he immediately accepted Lin Yi's appointment without any problems. As for whether there would be any difficulties or dangers, he completely ignored it. Zhang Wen, who was standing behind, couldn't help but ask, Lin Yi, I'm the chief commander of the center. What do you mean by making me a director? Director means to keep an eye on you guys, especially since you're the commander-in-chief. I need to know if you're going to jump out and cause trouble again. What? You got a problem with that? Lin Yi said as he looked at Zhang Wen coldly, his tone unquestionable. I don't have a problem with that. Zhang Wen was extremely aggrieved, but he didn't dare to act presumptuously in front of Lin Yi. He knew that a wise man knew better than to fight when the odds were against him, and Lin Yi had a deep impression of it. After all, Lin Yi had always comforted himself like this. Lan Xiaoru was also a little speechless. Lin Yi used the pretense of a joint research and truce to openly put the undercover Dafeng Bro back. This was indeed a genius idea. No problem. If you want a spokesperson director, then it's fine. But aren't you afraid that I might kill him at any time? Lan Xiaoru readily agreed. It was not a problem for her to let in a spy who was in the open. Perhaps she could make use of him in the future. On the other hand, Big Brother Feng was quite daring. After betraying the center, he still dared to come back in such a high-profile manner. He really didn't know how to write the word death. Linny shrugged and said nonchalantly, "It doesn't matter. You can kill me if you want. However, even if I return to Heavenly Island, I can still return to the secular world at any time. Other people's primordial spirit projection is limited, but I don't. As you can see, my primordial spirit has been projecting for so long without any problems, so there won't be any problems if I repeat it." Han Jingjing looked at Lan Xiaoru with a smile. Her meaning was clear. She could also project her primordial spirit down at any time, and with her here, it would be much easier for the people on Heavenly Island to project their primordial spirit down. If Lan Xiaoru dared to touch Dafeng Bro, she would have to be prepared for revenge. Dafeng Bro naturally supported Lin Yi. He immediately stood up and laughed. "I, Dafeng Bro, am not someone who is afraid of death. If you dare to touch me, you will die at most. But I believe that boss will come back to uphold justice for me. Don't worry, boss. With me here, these guys definitely won't be able to play any tricks." What's there to be proud of for a traitor? Jiang Wen couldn't help but look down on Dafeng Bro. He didn't dare to go crazy on Lin Yi directly, so he could only vent his anger on Dafeng Bro. Unfortunately, Dafeng Bro was a foundational practitioner. After all, he heard every single word and glared at Jiang Wen. "Jiang Wen, what are you talking about? Are you looking for trouble? I've always been Boss Lin Yi's subordinate. Saying I'm a traitor is a joke. Come over here. I'm not a joking director." Jiang Wen shivered and quickly smiled. No, Director Dafeng. You heard wrongly. I didn't say anything." Even if Lin Yi left the mortal world, Jiang Wen wouldn't dare offend Dafeng Bro. He knew that he was just a small shrimp in Lin Yi's eyes. It didn't matter how much trouble he caused, but if he touched Lin Yi's bottom line, he would definitely be killed mercilessly by Lin Yi. Most importantly, he was the commander of the center, and if Lin Yi were to kill him, no one would think about avenging him. He hadn't even started his rebirth plan yet, and if he were to die now, he'd be dead for good. He had to endure when he had to. Dafeng Bro felt relaxed. It wasn't bad to be able to return to the center. With his boss supporting him, not only would the people in the center not dare to kill him, they would also protect him. "You? I'm talking about you, Shuejian. Our boss and sis-in-law have been here for so long, and they don't even have a cup of tea. Is that right? I'm not a director who doesn't care about anything. Even if it's a small matter like this, I can't be careless, understand? Hurry up and make some tea." Dafeng Bro pointed at Shui Jianfeng and yelled. Even if he was a fox pretending to be a tiger, he had to show his authority first. "You." Shui Jianfeng was furious, but when he saw Lin Yi looking at him with a smile that didn't look like a smile, he immediately swallowed the second half of the sentence. Seeking death? It couldn't be helped. Lin Yi's 5 elements murderous aura was still in his body. It was too painful for it to flare up from time to time. Even when Languza punched him like a dead dog, it wasn't as terrifying as Lin Yi's 5 elements murderous aura. He didn't know when it would completely dissipate. "What you? Are you not convinced? If you're not convinced, just say it. Your bro Feng is listening." Dafeng Bro glared at Shui Jianfeng fiercely. Which foundation establishment stage cultivator dared to yell at a profound ascending stage cultivator like him? And that profound ascending stage cultivator could only hold it in and not speak? Shui Jianfeng almost had an internal injury from holding it in. It was fine if he was bullied in the center, but even a traitor in the center dared to give him a hard time. What profound ascending stage? What immortal body? It's all bullshit. Chapter 5774. Shui Jianfeng didn't dare to respond to Lin Yi's glare. He snorted and turned his head away, pretending that he didn't hear Dafeng Bro's words. However, he swore to himself that when his strength increased, it didn't matter if it was the people from the center or Lin Yi's people, They would all die. Jiangwen and Xiaolong's faces were very ugly. Dafeng Bro's behavior was completely disregarding them. It was simply intolerable. For a moment, these guys actually felt a sense of solidarity against a common enemy. This effect was also what Lan Xiaoru was happy to see, so she didn't have the slightest intention of interfering with Dafeng Bro's actions. This wasn't just because she was afraid of Lin Yi. The three generals under her had been giving her a headache for a long time. If she could use Dafeng Bro's hand to bring them together, it would definitely be a very big harvest. The proposals of both sides were approved, and the two agreements were signed smoothly. Han Jingjing received the wormhole information from the center, and after preliminary verification, it should be true. This time, the negotiations were basically completed successfully. Boss Lin Yi, don't worry. With me, Dafeng Bro, watching over the center, I won't let these guys cause trouble for you. Dafeng Bro patted his chest with a ruddy face and promised. After Lin Yi and Han Jingjing went back, he would directly stay here and start his work as the director of the center. Although these guys don't dare to touch you, you have to be careful. I don't want to hear any news of you getting hurt. Lin Yi warned, but he was still more assured about Dafeng Bro's safety. Thank you, boss. I understand. I was still hesitating about what I could do before, but boss actually sent me back to the center. This is indeed the most suitable place for me, and I don't need to completely give up my years of operation. Take care, boss. Dafeng Bro bowed respectfully. He was really happy. Lin Yi also thought for a long time before coming up with this arrangement. Take care. Goodbye. Lin Yi brought Han Jingjing onto the flying saucer. With a wave of his hand, the flying saucer flew towards the direction of the villa. After returning to the villa, Han Jingjing immediately started researching the information on the wormhole. These things had to be understood as soon as possible. Otherwise, if they returned to Heaven Island and discovered the problem, it would take too long for them to settle accounts. Lin Yi also wanted to take the opportunity to test the upgraded automatic alchemy furnace. If he could refine pills with sea beast inner cores, he could refine some foundation establishment pills and gold core golden pills for the people in the secular world. After telling them not to disturb him, Lin Yi returned to his room, took out the Shinnon cauldron, and turned on the automatic alchemy device. Han Jingjing's familiar smiling face popped up on the touch screen, and the text below was updated. Jingjing has built an intelligent alchemy system for Lin Yi Gij. After entering the system interface, there was an additional option, Spiritual Alchemy Fire Alchemy. Lin Yi was a little excited when he saw it. It was similar to the first time he was refining pills. Thinking about how he tried so many times in the ancient underworld, he couldn't refine a furnace of pills with sea beast inner cores. Now he finally succeeded. It was really not easy. After choosing Spiritual Alchemy Fire Alchemy, a few small options appeared. They were similar to the previous ones, refining known pills, analysis of unknown pills, and so on. Lin Yi had given Han Jingjing several pill recipes before, and she had already entered them, so she could directly choose the known pills to refine. Lin Yi still kept a lot of the sea beast inner cores he obtained in the ancient underworld. Now, he chose a foundation establishment pill from these pill recipes. Please wait, Jingjing is generating the refining script for the foundation establishment pill for brother Lin Yi. After Jingjing's calculation, putting in 3 sets of materials at a time will get the greatest benefits. However, the sea beast inner cores should be of the same attribute, and the difference in level cannot be too big, otherwise, it will affect the effect. Lin Yi quickly selected 3 sea beast inner cores of the same attribute and the same level. He did not doubt Han Jingjing's reminder. If he put in 3 sea beast inner cores that did not meet the requirements, it was not impossible for him to fail directly. Except for the sea beast inner cores, the rest of the materials were very ordinary. Lin Yi's stock of elixirs was quite large, so he did not have to worry about this aspect. After putting the 3 sets of materials into the Shinnon cauldron, he pressed the OK button. The words analyzing appeared on the screen, and soon the results jumped out. The refining script for the foundation establishment pill has been generated. According to the weight of the materials, there are 3 sets of high-quality materials. The refining time is estimated to be 1 hour and 25 minutes. It is estimated that 5 elixirs can be obtained. Please prepare the alchemy fire and continue to input. In terms of time, It was faster than using the true Qi alchemy fire and elixirs to refine the foundation establishment pill. For this, Linny was quite satisfied. In less than 1.5 hours, he could refine 5 foundation establishment pills. This speed was absolutely against the natural order. After condensing the alchemy fire, Lin Yi began to stare at the screen of the tablet attentively. Because his spiritual sense was quite powerful, the alchemy curve on the tablet was quite smooth, with almost no extra twists and turns. Finally, after 1 hour and 21 minutes, the refining of the foundation establishment pill was completed. Without opening the lid of the cauldron, there was already a faint pill fragrance wafting out. This alchemy has ended. There are 5 pills, 2 of high quality and 3 of medium quality. The script has been found to have a slight adjustment. It will be automatically adjusted in the next alchemy. Linny was slightly startled, then immediately smiled and said, Jing is really amazing. The automatic alchemy equipment nowadays is becoming more and more intelligent. The quality of the 5 foundation establishment pills could only be said to be average, so Lin Yi did not care. After putting them away, he put 3 sets of materials into the furnace and prepared to refine them a second time. Since the first time was not perfect, of course, he had to refine a few more times. When the script was perfect, he could refine other elixirs. In any case, Lin Yi did not have anything else, but he had the materials. The quality of the second foundation establishment pill was much better, and the time was reduced by about 3 minutes. However, there was still room for improvement, so Linny did not stop and continued refining for the 3rd time. Finally, while reducing the time by another 2 minutes, he refined 5 top-grade, special-grade elixirs. Chapter 5775. Please wait a moment. Jing is generating the refining script for Brother Lin Yi's Jindan. After Jing's calculation, putting in 5 sets of materials at a time will get the greatest benefit, but it is best for the sea beast's Niden to be of 5 elements, so that after forming a cycle of 5 elements, the effect will be increased by 20%. If there are no 5 elements, you can only use the sea beast's Niden of a single element. Of course, the level of the sea beast's Niden can't be too different, otherwise, it will affect the effect. Linny was slightly stunned. It was the first time he heard that alchemy would have a cycle of 5 elements. Han Jing was too heaven-defying. She could even take such a factor into account. In fact, whether it was the Heaven Stage Island or the ancient small world, alchemists refined alchemy 1 set of materials at a time. No one put several materials into alchemy like Lin Yi. Even if there was such a method of 5 elements, no one could use it, so it was normal that he had never heard of it. In any case, this was a more powerful alchemy method. Lin Yi no longer hesitated. He immediately selected the 5 gold core stage Sea Beast's Niden and put them into the Shinnon cauldron together with the auxiliary elixirs. To be honest, the other attributes of the Sea Beast's Niden were easy to get, but the fire attribute Sea Beast's Niden, Linny really didn't have many. A fire attribute Sea Beast's Niden, it could be imagined how difficult it would be in the sea, so the 5 elements of the same gold core stage Sea Beast's Niden could be collected at most, which was the amount that could be refined 3 times. The Jindan alchemy script has been generated. According to the analysis of the material weight, there are 5 sets of alchemy materials of high quality. It is estimated that the alchemy time is 2 hours and 36 minutes. It is estimated that 7 elixirs can be obtained. Please prepare the spiritual awareness alchemy fire and maintain a continuous input state. The time it took to concoct the golden elixir was more than an hour longer than the foundation elixir, almost double the time. Of course, the amount of materials he put in was also double the amount, so he didn't find it strange at all. He focused on condensing his consciousness into the refinement fire. Fortunately, Lin Yi's spiritual sense was incomparably powerful. Otherwise, with such continuous alchemy, an ordinary alchemist would have already fainted. It could be said that he did not have any talent in alchemy, but in this aspect, he was blessed by heaven. 2.5 hours later, the refining of the first Jindan was completed. The number reported by the automatic alchemy system was 8 pills, 6 of which were special grade and 2 of which were superior grade. Not only was it 1 more than expected, but the quality was also excellent. Sure enough, refining with the 5 elements was different. Languza hurriedly followed and did not forget to bring in the meat at the door. "Boss, what's the matter? Just tell me. I, Languza, will definitely do it properly for boss." Languza immediately opened his mouth after he sat down. He seemed to have his own way of doing things. Lin Yi thought for a moment before saying, "Didn't I say before that I want you to stay in the secular world to protect the people here? Do you have any other ideas now? If you want to go back to the endless sea, it doesn't matter." Languza's face slightly darkened, and he sighed and said, "Boss, I want to follow you. I don't want to go back to the endless sea. If you can't take me to the heavenly island, I will stay here to protect my sisters-in-law." "If it's the heavenly island, it's not impossible for you to go," Linny said carefully. Although the jade space was his secret, Languza's temperament could be trusted. Since he had already considered this matter before, Linny no longer hesitated. Languza was suddenly overjoyed. He couldn't help but lean forward and asked anxiously, "Really? Boss, can I really go with you?" "That's great. Chen Dongqing is still very reliable. It's enough for him to stay here. I, Languza, will follow you to the heavenly island." Chapter 5776. Of course it's true, but this matter might be a bit dangerous, and you absolutely cannot reveal it. After arriving at Heavenly Island, you cannot say that you followed me there. You can only say that you were originally a sea dragon on Heavenly Island. Lin Yi believed that Languza wouldn't casually reveal the matter of the space in the jade pendant, but he still needed to be reminded. Languza also understood that Lin Yi wanted him to know some secrets. Don't be fooled by his carefree attitude. He was absolutely not a fool. He immediately said with a serious expression, "Boss, I understand. I'm not afraid of danger. As long as I can be with you, what is a trivial danger? As for what you said, I, Languza, will definitely remember it and absolutely won't reveal any information." In fact, even if Languza didn't say it, the people from the center would more or less be able to guess some of the truth. However, after arriving at Heavenly Island, Lin Yi could have Languza change his appearance a bit, or he could have Han Jingjing research to see if there was a way to directly bring people to Heavenly Island. No matter what, as long as Languza went to Heavenly Island, there would always be an excuse. Moreover, Lin Yi's plan was to have Languza go to the sea to gain experience for a while and search for his own opportunities. This way, it might not attract the attention of the center. All right, after Jing Jing comes out of seclusion, we'll prepare to return to Heavenly Island. At that time, I'll let you enter a space that's exclusive to me. No living people can enter, but spirit beasts can live inside. You're a sea dragon, so you belong to the category of spirit beasts, so I reckon you'll be able to enter. It's just that I'm not sure if you'll have a problem crossing the plane to Heavenly Island," Lin Yi said in a dignified tone. He really wasn't trying to scare Languza. That ghost couldn't wake up in the secular world, and Zhao Yazi couldn't appear on the Heaven Stage Island. Who knew if something would happen to Languza? Languza laughed and said, "Boss, don't worry. I, Languza, didn't die even after being captured by the Central and was rescued by you. This means that if I follow you, I will be accompanied by good luck. There won't be a problem. It's a deal." Lin Yi thought about it and felt that it was true. If he had not saved Languza, his physical body would have already collapsed. Speaking of which, his luck was indeed not bad. "Boss, you don't have to worry about that. Let's see if you can let me enter your space first. If we can't get in, then everything will be in vain." Languza had made up his mind to follow Lin Yi, so he was very concerned about whether or not he could enter the space that Lin Yi was talking about like the spirit beasts. "That's right, then let's give it a try first." Lin Yi originally had this idea. Since Languza took the initiative to mention it, then he would give it a try. As expected, although Languza was a sea dragon, he still belonged to the category of spirit beasts. There was no problem for him to enter the space of the jade pendant. As such, as long as he let Languza enter the space of the jade pendant before Lin Yi left, then he would come out at Heaven Stage Island. Unfortunately, The space of the jade pendant couldn't carry people. Otherwise, he wouldn't have to run between the two ends if he could bring everyone into Heaven Stage Island. After discussing with Languza, while Han Jingjing was still studying the wormhole, Lin Yi also began to bid farewell to the people in the secular world. When Han Jingjing came out, he could directly leave. Everyone knew that he was going back, so they basically put down everything at hand and stayed in the villa. Even Cheng Yi, who was far away in Europe, rushed back after her concert tour. However, before leaving, Lin Yi suddenly remembered that Zhou Ruoming and Liang Ruoqing's wedding was not yet held. As the big matchmaker, he promised to host a wedding for them in Songshan City. Before returning to Heaven Stage Island, he should still fulfill this promise. Since he thought of it, Lin Yi didn't delay any longer. He directly took out his phone and dialed Zhou Ruoming's number. It only rang once before the other side picked up, as if Zhou Ruoming had been waiting for his call. "Boss Lin Yi, you're back in Songshan City?" Zhou Ruoming's surprised voice came through the phone, making Lin Yi's mood a lot better. He was indeed very happy to be able to achieve a good fate. "Yes, some things have been delayed for a bit. Is your wedding done? I need to make it up to you guys with a wedding gift." Of course, Lin Yi wouldn't say something like, "Are you guys still waiting for me to host the wedding?" So he could only ask indirectly. Zhou Ruoming laughed. "Boss Lin Yi, are you trying to kill me? Me and Ruoqing being able to have what we have today is all thanks to you." That was the best gift he could give her. As for the wedding, we've already done it once at Ruoqing's house, but Songshan City has been waiting for you, Boss Lin Yi. Without you hosting, we'd rather not have the wedding. Lin Yi wasn't surprised when he heard this. He immediately nodded. "If that's the case, then tell me the date of the wedding. I've been quite busy recently, so I'll be leaving after attending your wedding." "Boss Lin Yi, I know you're busy. If you're free today, then let's do it tonight," Zhou Ruoming said straightforwardly. Obviously, he had already prepared for this. Everything's prepared for the wedding? Lin Yi was slightly startled. He also understood that Zhou Ruoming must have booked the wedding venue so that he could attend the wedding at any time. Although the money was nothing to Lin Yi, it was probably not insignificant to the Zhou family. That's right, the bride, the groom, and the venue are all prepared. We're just waiting for you to host the wedding. Zhou Ruoming said with a hearty smile. This wedding was completely prepared for Lin Yi. As for the guests, the Zhou family didn't have many close friends, so it was very convenient to inform them. Moreover, in Zhou Ruoming's heart, his family and friends were not on the same level as Lin Yi. At most, he would invite them again later. "All right, since you're ready, then I'll be there on time tonight. Where's the venue?" Lin Yi said with a smile. Zhou Ruoming handled this matter very well. It was very important that it didn't take up too much of Lin Yi's time. "It's the #1 private room of the Huangting Hotel. Should I go pick you up, boss? If you have any friends with you, they're welcome to come along." Zhou Ruoming thought of Languza. With him around, he must ask the hotel to prepare more meat. Chapter 57-77. "All right, since you said so, Lin Yi boss, Ruoqing and I will be waiting for you and your friend at the wedding," Zhou Ruoming said respectfully, then said goodbye to Lin Yi. After Lin Yi hung up the phone, he said goodbye to Languza. He wasn't going to bring anyone else, but Languza had witnessed the story between Zhou Ruoming and Liang Ruoqing, so it wasn't a problem to bring him along. Besides, Languza's generosity was equivalent to 30 to 40 people, so he could represent everyone. Although Zhou Ruoming said he didn't need gifts, Lin Yi couldn't really go to the wedding empty-handed. It was meaningless to give money. No matter how weak the Zhou family was, they didn't need money, not to mention they were going to be connected to the Liang family through marriage. After thinking for a while, Lin Yi decided to use the spiritual herbs on the Heaven-class island to make 2 bone and marrow cleansing pills. He was going to give them as gifts. These pills were useless to him, but to ordinary people like Zhou Ruoming, it was very effective. It could prolong his life for 100 or 200 years. When it was almost time, Lin Yi drove Languza to the Huangting Hotel. This hotel was one of the top hotels in Songshan. Even if they didn't use the room, they still had to pay 200,000 to 300,000 yuan a day. Zhou Ruoming had spent a lot of money waiting for Lin Yi, Lin Yi was driving his old Jeep Cherokee today. When they arrived at the hotel, a doorman came to open the door respectfully. He didn't mind. He tipped the doorman and gave the car keys to the doorman to park the car. Then he led Languza into the hotel. Normally, if there were VIPs holding a wedding in a hotel, there would be an eye-catching sign at the door, so people could find the place quickly. However, Lin Yi didn't see any sign for Zhou Ruoming and Liang Ruoqing's wedding. The number 1 private room was the best private room here. There was no reason for the hotel to be so careless. Lin Yi frowned slightly. He released his divine sense and found a sign in a remote corner that had been stepped on. The white lily decorations on the sign were almost ruined. As for Zhou Ruoming and Liang Ruoqing's names, they were almost ruined too. Lin Yi suddenly felt a little unhappy. This hotel was too inconsiderate. The handmade sign was ruined like this. Not only that, they didn't even put the sign on the LCD screen. Were they expressing their dissatisfaction with Zhou Ruoming and Liang Ruoqing? He continued to extend his divine sense, and the whole hotel appeared in his sea of consciousness. He easily saw that in the number 1 private room where Zhou Ruoming and Liang Ruoqing were, there was another group of people confronting with Zhou Ruoming. Boss, Zhou Ruoming seems to be in trouble. Why don't I go and kill all those people? Languza also swept out with his divine sense. When he found this situation, he was overjoyed. He didn't expect that he could not only have a big meal today, but also relax his muscles. Lin Yi smiled slightly and said, "No need for you. These are all small fries. It's not worth our time to take action." After that, ignoring Languza's disappointed eyes, he took out his mobile phone and called Kang Xiaobo. Then he took Languza to the elevator. When they came to the number 1 private room, they could already hear the quarrel inside from the open door. Lin Yi didn't rush in, so he listened outside with Languza. "Zhou Ruoming, Brother Chang said that you have to give up this place today. Don't think that you can go to heaven just because you married a woman from the Liang family. It's just a new aristocratic family. If you don't know what's good for you, believe it or not, your wife will become the wife of all our brothers tonight." A yellow-haired young man was shouting arrogantly inside. Zhou Ruoming almost rushed up and beat him, but Liang Ruoqing stopped him. "Today is my and Brother Ming's big day, so I don't want to argue with you. Leave immediately, otherwise, even your brother Cheng won't have a good life." Liang Ruoqing's pretty face was cold, and she said in a neither servile nor overbearing manner. After all, she was a girl from the Liang family, so her momentum was not inferior at all. "Yo, this chick is quite shrewish. Chick, what good life can you have with this poor guy? Follow us. I promise you will have a good life every day." Another yellow-haired man said with a wretched smile. He had no respect for the new aristocratic family, the Liang family. "Ruoqing, don't talk nonsense with them. Today, I will destroy these small fries first." Zhou Ruoming's blood was boiling. After being humiliated like this, he might as well die. The leader of the group of hoodlums snorted. "Zhou Ruoming, do you think Songshan is still the same as when the Zhou family was in power? Brother Chang gave you face by letting you use Supreme Number 1 for so long. Today, Brother Chang is going to use this place to invite a big shot, as well as celebrities from all over Songshan. If you know what's good for you, then leave, or don't blame us for being impolite. I think we should let his wife stay and be the main dish. Brother Cheng will definitely like it." Another yellow-haired man laughed loudly. Liang Ruoqing ignored him and sneered, "Your brother Cheng is going to invite a big shot. Don't tell me it was only decided today? Celebrities from all over Songshan. It's already dark, and you want to steal our reserved room? Do you really think we are easy to bully? What a joke. This number 1 private room was originally reserved for our brother Cheng. He can come whenever he wants. Did you guys decide on this? You guys have to give up the room you booked. If you keep being so long-winded, believe it or not, we brothers will gang rape you in front of your useless husband first." The yellow-haired man pointed at Liang Ruoqing arrogantly, his expression as if he couldn't wait for her to continue arguing. Lin Yi took a step forward, appearing in front of the blonde like a ghost. With a light slap, he sent the blonde flying out of the room, crashing into the wall and spitting out a mouthful of bloodied teeth. His head tilted to the side, and he fainted on the spot. If Linny didn't show mercy, this guy would have turned into a bloody mist and disappeared. Boss, why did you do it yourself? Let me do it. Languza quickly followed up and rolled up his sleeves, but seeing that Linny didn't say anything, he could only put down his arm. This is Zhou Ruoming and Liang Ruoqing's wedding. Those who aren't invited can leave now. Linny looked coldly at the group of hoodlums and said emotionlessly, "You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.